I'll never forget the sound of 50 people gasping as my mother's palm cracked across my face at my own engagement party. My brother Tyler burst into applause, actually clapping like he'd just watched a street performer. Dad lounged in his chair, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. "Serves you right," he drawled. They thought they'd finally broken me, but as I stood there cheek burning, I made a decision. That night, I would make 2 phone calls that would destroy everything they'd built. The country club's crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across the white tablecloths as our guests froze in shock. My cheek throbbed where my mother's manicured hand had struck me the 3-carat diamond on her ring, leaving a small cut near my eye. The Hartford Country Club had never witnessed such a scene, especially not from the prestigious Morrison family. My fiancé Marcus reached for me, his warm brown eyes filled with concern, but I held up my hand to stop him. I needed to face this moment alone. Around us, Connecticut's elite watched in stunned silence. These were judges, senators, business moguls, and their perfectly polished families, all here to celebrate my engagement to Marcus Chen, one of the youngest managing directors at Preston Investments. "Charlotte, what are you doing?" Margaret Whitfield, the governor's wife, whispered to my mother, but Charlotte Morrison didn't acknowledge her. My mother stood there in her Saint Laurent dress, her judicial robes replaced by designer silk, but her expression carried the same cold authority she wore in the courtroom. "I asked you a simple question, Brianne," my mother said, her voice cutting through the silence. "Are you really going to throw away your legacy for some ridiculous notion of journalism?" I touched my stinging cheek and straightened my spine. "It's not ridiculous. The Hartford Examiner offered me the investigative position. I'm taking it." That's when Tyler started his slow clap, each impact of his palms echoing through the ballroom. My older brother, the golden child, the prosecutor who'd never lost a case, grinned like he was enjoying the best show of his life. "Bravo, little sister, bravo. Always the rebel, aren't you?" My father, Robert Morrison, hadn't moved from his leather chair. The state senator observed the scene with the same calculating expression he used during political negotiations. His gray eyes swept over the crowd, measuring reactions, cataloging who looked sympathetic to me versus who sided with family authority. Then came that smirk, the one I'd seen 1,000 times when he'd orchestrated another political victory. "Serves you right," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You stand there in a dress we bought in a club we belong to at a party we're hosting and announce you're going to bite the hand that feeds you, investigating judicial corruption." He laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You want to investigate corruption, Brianne." The room held its breath. Even the waitstaff had frozen champagne flutes suspended in mid-air. My mother stepped closer, and for a moment I saw something flicker behind her cold exterior. Fear. No, that was impossible. Charlotte Morrison feared nothing and no one. She'd sentenced hardened criminals without blinking, had destroyed careers with a single ruling. But as she leaned in her Chanel perfume, mixing with the scent of her gin martini, she whispered something that changed everything. "You want to investigate corruption? Start with why your college roommate really disappeared." The words hit harder than her slap. Sarah. Sweet, brilliant Sarah Chen, who'd shared my dorm room at Yale for 2 years before vanishing one October night. The administration said she'd transferred to Berkeley family emergency paperwork, all in order, but she'd left everything behind. Her laptop, her research notes, her favorite necklace, a jade pendant her grandmother had given her. I stumbled backward, Marcus catching my elbow. The room spun not from the blow, but from the implication. What did my mother know about Sarah? "Charlotte, that's enough." Dr. Patricia Hayes, Yale's Dean Emeritus, and my mother's former mentor stepped forward. "This is neither the time nor place." But my mother wasn't finished. She straightened her dress and addressed the crowd. "My apologies for the disruption. As you all know, family can be challenging. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." The quartet resumed, playing a desperate attempt to restore normalcy. Guests turned away, pretending to engage in conversations while stealing glances at our family drama. But I couldn't move. Sarah's face flashed in my mind. Her excitement about her journalism project, her late nights poring over financial documents, her sudden disappearance. Brianne, let me get you some ice, Marcus said softly, but I shook my head. Did you just threaten me with Sarah? I asked my mother, my voice steadier than I felt. Charlotte's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Threaten? I simply suggested you be careful which doors you open. Some revelations can be devastating. Tyler loosened his tie, still grinning. God, you're dramatic, Bri. Sarah transferred. End of story. Stopped trying to make everything a conspiracy. But I saw it then, a quick exchange between my parents. A look that spoke volumes. Robert's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Charlotte's fingers drummed against her clutch. They knew something. After 5 years of accepting the official story, of pushing down the nagging doubts, I finally understood. My family was connected to Sarah's disappearance. Excuse me, I managed my voice barely above a whisper. I need some air. I walked through the crowd feeling their eyes on me. Some pitying, some scandalized, some already calculating how this Morrison family drama might be leveraged. That's how it worked in our circles. Every weakness was an opportunity. Marcus followed me onto the terrace, the cool September air a relief after the suffocating atmosphere inside. The Hartford skyline glittered in the distance, all those lights hiding their own secrets. Brianne, what was that about? Who's Sarah? I gripped the railing, knuckles white. How could I explain Sarah to him? How she'd been the only real friend I'd had at Yale, the only person who saw through the Morrison facade. How she'd been investigating something before she vanished, something that had scared her. Sarah Chen was my roommate, I said finally. She was a journalism major like me. One day she was there, the next, she was gone. The school said she transferred, but you don't believe it, Marcus finished. I turned to face him, really looking at the man I'd agreed to marry. Marcus was everything my parents had wanted for me. Successful, connected from a good family, but there was more to him than that. Behind those MBA credentials and tailored suits was someone who understood that all wasn't always as it seemed. She was investigating something, I continued. Financial irregularities in state government. She showed me some documents, but I didn't understand them then. I was pre-law, focused on making my parents proud. I didn't pay attention. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then he took my hands. Brianne, I need to tell you something. My firm. We've noticed some unusual patterns, cases that don't add up, money flowing through channels it shouldn't. Your mother's name has come up more than once. The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe your mother's reaction wasn't just about you taking that journalism job. Maybe she's scared of what you might find. I thought about all the late nights my parents spent in hushed conference calls, the visitors who came to our house through the back entrance, the way certain cases seemed to resolve too quickly, too neatly in my mother's courtroom, the campaign donations that materialized from nowhere for my father's races. Oh God, I breathed. What if Sarah found something? What if that's why she... Don't jump to conclusions, Marcus said, but I could see the concern in his eyes. We need facts, not speculation. Inside the party continued the sound of laughter and clinking glasses, a stark contrast to the storm building in my chest. My family had slapped me down for the last time. If they knew something about Sarah, if they were involved in whatever she'd been investigating, I would find out. I need to go back in, I said. Face them. Marcus squeezed my hand. I'm with you. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together. But as we walked back into the ballroom, I caught sight of Tyler whispering urgently to our parents. My father's face had lost its smirk, replaced by something harder. My mother's hands were clenched at her sides. They knew I wouldn't let this go. They knew their carefully constructed world was about to face its first real threat. What they didn't know was that their own daughter would be the one to bring it crashing down. The party dissolved within an hour of the slap heard around Hartford society. Guests made polite excuses, air kisses were exchanged, and promises to do lunch soon floated through the air like empty bubbles. I stood at the entrance with Marcus accepting condolences as if I'd suffered a death rather than public humiliation. In a way, maybe I had, the death of my illusions about my family. Darling, these things happen. Mrs. Pemberton patted my hand with her paper-thin fingers. Family quarrels always blow over. But she was wrong. This wasn't going to blow over. Not when Sarah's name hung in the air like a ghost at the feast. After the last guest departed, I found myself sitting in Marcus's BMW staring at my parents' estate through the windshield. The Morrison compound sprawled across 5 acres of pristine Connecticut land, all marble columns and manicured hedges. It looked like a fortress, now hiding its secrets behind walls of wealth and respectability. "Tell me about Sarah," Marcus said quietly. I closed my eyes, letting the memories flood back. Sophomore year 2019. Yale assigned us as roommates in Silliman College. She was everything I wasn't. Fearless, honest. She came from a middle-class family in San Francisco, full scholarship, determined to change the world through journalism. My voice caught as I remembered our first meeting. Sarah hauling boxes up 3 flights of stairs, refusing help, sweat dripping down her face, but smiling the whole time. She'd looked at my designer luggage and professional movers, and instead of judging me, she'd laughed and said, "Well, at least one of us knows how to pack light." We became close despite our differences, I continued, or maybe because of them. She saw through all the Morrison pretense, called me out when I was being a snob, made me question things I'd always accepted. Marcus turned to face me fully. What was she investigating when she disappeared? Financial corruption. She'd gotten a tip from someone inside the state treasury, documents showing money being moved through the court's verdicts that aligned with payment schedules. She was excited, said it could be bigger than anything the Hartford Examiner had published in years. I remembered that night clearly, October 15th, 2021. Sarah spread papers across our dorm room floor, connecting names with colored string like a detective in a movie. Her laptop screen glowed with spreadsheets I didn't understand. "Look at this, Bree," she'd said, pointing to a pattern in the data. "Every time a certain judge rules in favor of these companies, a donation appears in a political campaign within 48 hours. It's like clockwork." I'd been studying for my constitutional law midterm, barely glancing at her work. "That's probably just coincidence, Sarah. Correlation doesn't imply causation, remember?" She'd given me such a look of disappointment. "That's exactly what they count on people thinking." "Did she say which judge?" Marcus asked, though I could tell from his expression he already suspected. "No. She was being careful, said she needed more evidence before naming names, but..." I trailed off, piecing together fragments I'd ignored for years. "She did ask me once about my mother's cases, if I'd noticed anything unusual." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. I got defensive, told her my mother was above reproach. We had our first real fight that night." The regret tasted bitter. 3 days later, she was gone. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Brianne, I need to show you something. My firm keeps records of all major state transactions. Look at this." He showed me a document dated October 18th, 2021. Done 21. 3 days after Sarah and I had fought. It was a transfer order for a Sarah Chen from Yale University to UC Berkeley. The authorization signature at the bottom made my blood run cold. "That's my mother's signature," I whispered. But why would a Connecticut Superior Court judge sign a university transfer? "Look at the witness signature." I squinted at the scrawled name. "Dr. Martin Reeves. I don't know who that is." "He's not a university administrator," Marcus said grimly. "He's the head psychiatrist at Riverside Behavioral Center. It's a private facility in Westbrook." The implications crashed over me like a wave. You think they put her in a psychiatric hospital, made it look like a transfer? I think your roommate got too close to something dangerous, and I think your family might have been involved in making her disappear. My hand shook as I pulled out my own phone, searching for any trace of Sarah online. Her social media had gone dark years ago. No LinkedIn, no Facebook, no digital footprint at all. It was like she'd been erased. "We need to be careful," Marcus warned. "If they could do this to Sarah, they'll do it to anyone," I finished, including me. That's when I noticed the text from an unknown number. Just 2 words, "Be careful." Marcus saw it too. "Who's that?" "I don't know," but even as I said it, another text appeared. This time with a photo attachment. I opened it and gasped. It was Sarah, recent based on the timestamp in the corner. She was thinner, her once vibrant eyes dull, sitting in what looked like an institutional room. But she was alive. "Oh my God," I breathed. "She's alive." The next text made my heart stop. "Your mother's office. Bottom drawer. Midnight. Come alone." "Absolutely not," Marcus said immediately. "This could be a trap." But I was already making up my mind. Someone knew where Sarah was. Someone with access to my mother's office. Someone willing to risk exposing themselves to help. "I have to go," I said. "Then I'm coming with you." I shook my head. The text said alone. I can't risk scaring them off. This might be our only chance to find out what really happened. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, clearly torn. "What if it's Tyler or your parents setting you up?" "Then I'll deal with it." "But I can't live with not knowing anymore. Sarah deserves better than being erased." He was quiet for a long moment, then reached into his glove compartment and pulled out a small device. "Panic button. Press it once and I'll know you're in trouble. I'll be parked outside the house." I took it, grateful for his understanding. What if we're wrong? What if this is all some misunderstanding? "Do you really believe that?" I thought about my mother's whispered threat, my father's calculating eyes, Tyler's cruel laughter. No, I don't. As we drove back to the Morrison estate, I thought about all the times I'd chosen family loyalty over truth. Every instance where I'd looked away from something that didn't quite add up. Every moment I'd dismissed Sarah's concerns to protect the Morrison name. "I should have listened to her," I said quietly. "She came to me for help, and I chose them." "You were young," Marcus said, "conditioned to trust your family." "That's no excuse. She was my friend and I failed her." "Then don't fail her now." We parked down the street from the house, out of sight of the security cameras. It was 11:45. The estate was dark, except for the landscape lighting that made the gardens look like a fairy tale setting. But I knew better now. Fairy tales were just pretty lies we told ourselves to avoid facing ugly truths. "Be careful," Marcus said, pressing the panic button into my palm. "Any sign of danger, you press this and get out." I leaned over and kissed him, tasting his fear for me. "Thank you for believing me. I love you, Brianne. That means believing you, especially when things don't make sense." I slipped out of the car and made my way across the lawn, avoiding the main driveway and its motion sensors. The side entrance used by staff was protected by a keypad. I punched in the code I'd known since childhood, praying they hadn't changed it. The lock clicked open. Inside the house felt different in the darkness. All the familiar spaces transformed into something sinister. Family photos lined the hallway, generations of Morrisons staring down at me with their frozen smiles. Had they all been part of this? How far back did the corruption go? My mother's office was in the East Wing, past the library where my father conducted his late-night meetings. I crept through the shadows, grateful for the thick carpets that muffled my footsteps. The grandfather clock in the foyer began to chime midnight. The office door was closed, but unlocked. I slipped inside using my phone's flashlight to navigate. Everything was perfectly organized, just as Charlotte Morrison demanded. Law books arranged by topic, files color-coded and alphabetized, not a paper out of place. The bottom drawer of her desk was locked. I tried my mother's usual combinations. Her birthday, my father's birthday, nothing worked. Then on instinct, I tried Sarah's birthday, October 3rd. The lock clicked open. Inside was a single manila folder. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first document was a court order signed by my mother committing Sarah Chen to Riverside Behavioral Center for psychiatric evaluation and treatment. The diagnosis was acute paranoid delusions regarding state government. Behind it were Sarah's original documents, the ones she'd shown me that night. Bank records, court transcripts, A web of corruption so intricate it took my breath away. My mother's name appeared again and again, cases dismissed, sentences reduced, always followed by deposits to offshore accounts. But it went deeper. My father's campaign finances were tangled in the web, money laundered through the court system into political coffers. Tyler's prosecution record suddenly made sense. He only pursued cases that didn't threaten the network. Everyone else got deals or dismissals. At the bottom of the folder was a flash drive labeled insurance. I pocketed it along with key documents, my mind reeling. My family wasn't just corrupt, they were running a criminal enterprise through the state justice system. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I quickly closed the drawer and stood ready to run. The door opened and a figure stepped inside, but it wasn't who I expected. Rosa, our housekeeper of 20 years, stood there in her nightgown and robe. She'd been the one who'd kissed my scraped knees, who'd made my favorite soup when I was sick, who'd attended every school play when my parents were too busy. "Miss Brianne," she whispered, "I knew you would come." "Rosa, you sent the texts." She nodded, tears streaming down her weathered face. I could not stay silent anymore. That poor girl. I heard them planning, but I was too afraid to lose my job, my work visa. But seeing your mother strike you tonight, enough is enough. You know where Sarah is. Riverside Behavioral Center, Building C. They keep her drugged, confused, but she is strong. She remembers you. How do you know this? Rosa pulled out her phone, showing me a photo. It was the same one from the text, but clearer. In the background, partially visible, was a medical chart with Sarah's name. My nephew works maintenance there. He recognized her from the news stories about missing Yale students. He thought it strange, a missing girl in a psychiatric hospital, so he took this sent to me. "We have to get her out," I said. "Be careful, Miss Brianne. Your family, they have done this to others. People who asked too many questions. People who threatened their arrangement." "How many others?" Rosa's face crumpled. "Too many. Some in hospitals, some did not survive their treatments." The full horror of it washed over me. My family hadn't just destroyed Sarah. They'd been destroying lives for years, all while I lived in ignorant privilege, defending them, protecting their reputation. "Why didn't you ever say anything before?" "To who your mother controls judges, your father controls politicians, your brother prosecutes those who speak out. Where would I go? Who would believe a housekeeper over the Morrison family?" She was right. The system was rigged in their favor, but now I had evidence. Now I knew the truth. "Rosa, you need to leave tonight. Take your family and go somewhere safe." Where is safe from them? I thought about Marcus waiting outside, about the documents in my hand, about Sarah trapped in that hospital. "I don't know," I admitted, "but staying here isn't safe either. Not anymore." A door slammed somewhere in the house. We both froze. "Go," Rosa whispered urgently. "Out the service entrance. Go now." I squeezed her hand gratefully and ran. Behind me, I heard Tyler's voice calling out, "Who's there? I know someone's here." I burst out of the house and sprinted across the lawn, not caring about motion sensors or cameras anymore. Marcus had the car running before I even reached the street. I dove in and we peeled away, leaving my childhood home behind. "Did you get it?" he asked. I showed him the folder, gasping for breath. "It's worse than we thought. So much worse. And Sarah, she's alive, but they've had her committed, made her look crazy so no one would believe her story." Marcus's face was grim as he drove. "We need to get somewhere safe, figure out our next move." "I know where Sarah is," I said. "Building C at Riverside. We have to get her out." "Brianne, we can't just break into a psychiatric facility." "Then what do we do?" "Leave her there. Let them continue drugging her into silence." He was quiet for a moment, then made a sharp turn. "I know someone who might help. FBI, he's been investigating financial crimes in the state system. Can we trust him?" "I trust him more than anyone else right now." As we drove through the dark Connecticut roads, I thought about the girl I'd been just hours ago. Engaged, comfortable, willfully blind. That girl was gone, now slapped away by my mother's hand and buried under the weight of truth. In her place was someone harder, someone angry, someone who would not stop until Sarah was free and my family faced justice. They thought they'd broken me tonight. They were wrong. They'd created their worst enemy. Marcus drove us to his apartment in downtown Hartford, a sleek high-rise that felt like another world from my family's estate. We sat at his kitchen table, the folder's contents spread between us like evidence of a massacre. Because that's what it was, a massacre of justice perpetrated by the very people sworn to uphold it. "I can't reach my FBI contact until morning," Marcus said, studying the documents. "David's strict about security protocols. No calls after midnight unless it's life or death." "This is life or death," I argued. "Sarah's life. And if we spook them into moving her, or worse," he touched my hand gently, "6 hours won't make a difference after 5 years. We need to be smart about this." I wanted to scream at the injustice of it. Sarah had waited 5 years. How could I make her wait even 6 more hours? But Marcus was right. Rushing in would only give my family time to cover their tracks. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Come home immediately. We need to discuss your behavior." Then another from Tyler. "Stop being dramatic. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong." And finally, my father. "You're making a mistake, Brianne. Family comes first, always." "They're panicking," Marcus observed. "Good. Panicked people make mistakes." I deleted the messages without responding. Let them wonder where I was, what I was doing. Let them feel a fraction of the fear Sarah must have felt when they dragged her away. "I should go back," I said suddenly. "Confront them, get them to admit what they did." "Absolutely not. That's exactly what they want. You alone, where they control the environment." "I'm not afraid of them." "You should be." His voice was sharp with concern. "Brianne, look at these documents. Really look. Your family has destroyed dozens of lives. What makes you think they'd hesitate to destroy yours?" The flash drive Rosa had risked everything to give me sat on the table like a grenade. I plugged it into Marcus's laptop, my hands shaking slightly. What could be worse than what I'd already discovered? The files that loaded made my blood run cold. Photographs, crime scene photos, people who had committed suicide after opposing my father's policies or challenging my mother's rulings. Detailed notes about handling problems. Tyler's name appeared repeatedly as the enforcer, the one who made sure witnesses stayed quiet or disappeared entirely. One file was labeled S. Chen Contingency Plans. I clicked it open and immediately wished I hadn't. It contained scenarios for if Sarah ever escaped or if her story gained traction. Options ranged from discrediting her as mentally ill to a staged overdose. The final option simply read, "Permanent solution, make example for others." Jesus, Marcus breathed. They were planning to kill her. They still might, I realized. If they know I have this information, if they think she might testify. I grabbed my phone and called Rosa. It rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. My heart pounded as I tried again. "Nothing. We need to go back," I said. "Rosa's not answering. What if they—" Marcus was already grabbing his keys. "We'll drive by, but we're not going in. If anything looks wrong, we call 911. The drive back to my parents' estate felt like traveling through a nightmare. Every shadow could hide danger. Every car could be following us. Paranoid maybe, but Sarah hadn't been paranoid enough. As we approached the estate, my worst fears materialized. Police cars and an ambulance were parked in the driveway, lights flashing. My mother stood on the front steps in her silk pajamas, playing the concerned employer to perfection. "Oh God," I whispered. "Rosa." Marcus parked far enough away to avoid notice. We watched as paramedics wheeled a gurney out of the house. The body was covered, but I recognized the small, work-worn hand that slipped from beneath the sheet. "No," I breathed. "No, no, no." "We can't stop," Marcus said firmly, even as tears ran down his face. "If we stop now, her death means nothing." Through the car window, I watched Tyler speaking with the police officers. He gestured dramatically, probably spinning some story about a tragic accident. A fall down the stairs, a heart attack, natural causes. The officers nodded sympathetically. Of course they did. Tyler was a prosecutor, one of their own. My phone rang, my mother. Against Marcus's protests, I answered, Brianne, dear. Her voice was honey sweet. There's been a terrible accident. Rosa fell down the service stairs. You should come home. The family needs to be together during this difficult time. You murdered her. My voice was flat, emotionless. I'd moved beyond fury into something colder. What a horrible thing to say. Poor Rosa was getting older and those stairs are quite steep. We're all devastated. She was like family. She was family, I spat. More family than you ever were. A pause. When my mother spoke again, her voice had lost its false sweetness. You took something that doesn't belong to you tonight. Return it and we can discuss your future options. My future options. Yes, perhaps a position with a family firm after all, or maybe a nice long vacation. Europe is lovely this time of year. You could take Marcus. We'd cover all expenses, of course. You're trying to buy me off. I'm trying to save your life, you foolish girl. The mask dropped completely. Do you think you're the first person to discover our arrangement? Do you think you're special? Return what you took, forget this nonsense about journalism, and you can live a long, comfortable life. Continue down this path. What? You'll kill me. Like you killed Rosa, like you tried to kill Sarah. Sarah's alive, isn't she? We're not monsters, Brianne. We're pragmatists. She's receiving excellent care at a top-tier facility. You're drugging her into compliance. We're treating her paranoid delusions. The poor girl believed all sorts of wild conspiracies. Judges taking bribes, politicians laundering money, prosecutors covering up crimes. Can you imagine? The casualness with which she admitted everything while maintaining plausible deniability made me sick. I have the evidence, Mother, documents, recordings, everything. Evidence can disappear, just like people. Her voice hardened. You have 24 hours to return what you took. After that, well, I'd hate for Marcus to have an accident. Investment banking is such a stressful field. People crack under pressure all the time. If anything happens to Marcus, then it will be your fault for not listening to your mother. 24 hours, Brianne. Don't test me. She hung up. Marcus had heard everything through the car's Bluetooth. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. We're going to the FBI. Now, protocols be damned. But I was thinking about Rosa, about Sarah, about all the bodies buried under my family's success. The FBI would take time, build a case, follow procedures. How many more people would die while we waited for justice to crawl through a system my family controlled? No, I said quietly. We're going to Riverside. Brianne, they killed Rosa because she helped me. Sarah's the only witness left who can corroborate these documents. If they realize we might actually succeed in exposing them, she's dead. It's 3 a.m. The facility will be locked down. Then we'll figure something out, but I'm not leaving her there another night. Marcus looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but we do this smart. First, we make copies of everything. Upload it to multiple cloud services. Send copies to my FBI contact and that journalist you mentioned during the party. Insurance. Amanda Chen at the Washington Post. I remembered. I interned under her one summer. She's been investigating judicial corruption for years. Good. We'll send her everything. If something happens to us, at least the story won't die. As Marcus drove toward his apartment to gather supplies and make copies, I stared at the photo of Sarah on my phone. 5 years of drugged captivity. 5 years of being told her truth was insanity, all because she'd tried to do the right thing. I'm coming, Sarah, I whispered. Hold on just a little longer. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Tyler. Saw you drive by. Stupid move, sis. Mom's patient, but I'm not. You always were too soft, like Rosa. Shame about those stairs. The admission, even veiled, made my decision clear. My family wasn't just corrupt. They were killers, and they'd just threatened the man I loved. Change of plans, I told Marcus. After we copy everything, we're not just rescuing Sarah. We're burning it all down. What do you mean? Tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the country is going to wake up to the story of the century. Connecticut's first family exposed as a criminal enterprise. We're not giving them 24 hours to cover their tracks. We're giving them until dawn. Marcus squeezed my hand. Your family will come after us with everything they have. Then we'd better make sure they don't have anything left. As we pulled into this parking garage, I thought about the girl who'd stood in that ballroom just hours ago, worried about family reputation and social standing. She died with Rosa on those service stairs. What emerged was someone harder, someone willing to destroy her own blood to save an innocent friend. My mother had slapped me to keep me in line. Tyler had applauded my humiliation. My father had smirked at my pain. They'd created their own destroyer. And dawn was coming fast. Marcus's apartment became our war room. We worked with the desperate efficiency of people who knew death was stalking them. Every document scanned, uploaded to encrypted servers, emailed to journalists and law enforcement contacts across the country. If my family wanted to bury the story, they'd have to silence half the eastern seaboard. David finally answered, Marcus said, putting his phone on speaker. "You're not going to believe this." The FBI agent's voice was grim. "Marcus, Brianne, I need you to listen carefully. You've stumbled into something my team has been investigating for 3 years. The Morrison family is just the tip of the iceberg." "What do you mean?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. How much worse could this get? "Your mother, Judge Charlotte Morrison, is part of a network that spans 6 states. Judges, prosecutors, politicians, business leaders, they call themselves the Order. Your evidence could crack the whole thing open." My hand stilled on the keyboard. The Order. Think of it as organized crime with law degrees. They've been operating for decades, passing power down through families. Your grandmother tried to expose them 20 years ago. "My grandmother died in a fall," I said slowly, "just like Rosa. Your grandmother died trying to protect you. She'd discovered what your parents were involved in and threatened to go public. Her death was a message." The room spun. Everything I thought I knew about my family, my history, was a lie. "You've known this for 3 years and done nothing. We've been building a case, but they're careful. Every time we get close to a witness, they disappear or recant. Your friend Sarah was our best shot until she vanished." He paused. "Is it true she's alive?" "She's at Riverside Behavioral Center. They've had her committed drugged for 5 years." David cursed. "We need to get her out. Tonight. She's the key witness we need." "That's what we're planning," Marcus said. "But the facility is secure. We can't just walk in." "You won't have to. I'll meet you there with a federal warrant in 2 hours. Judge Martinez in New York is clean outside their network. She'll sign off on an emergency extraction." 2 hours, I protested. "My family knows I have evidence. They've already killed Rosa. Sarah could be next." "Then we'd better move fast. Send me everything you have. I'll wake up every clean agent I know. This ends tonight." After he hung up, Marcus and I continued our digital assault. The flash drive contained more than just murder evidence. There were recordings. Secret meetings where my family and their associates carved up the state like a Thanksgiving turkey. My mother's voice cold and clear, discussing which cases to fix. My father laughing about fooling voters. Tyler bragging about witnesses he'd intimidated into silence. One recording stopped me cold. It was from 5 years ago, just days before Sarah disappeared. "The Chen girl knows too much," my mother's voice said. "She's been asking questions at the courthouse." "So handle it," my father replied, "like we handled Mom when she got difficult." "This is different. She's a Yale student. There'll be questions." "Not if it's done right," Tyler interjected. "Riverside has that new wing, completely isolated. Dr. Reeves owes us for keeping his license after that malpractice suit. And if she talks, who believes a mental patient, especially one with a history of paranoid delusions about government corruption? It's perfect." "Fine, but this is the last time. We're getting sloppy." My father's laugh was cruel. "We're getting rich, same difference." I had to run to Marcus's bathroom, barely making it before I vomited. They'd discussed destroying Sarah's life like planning a dinner party. Casual evil wrapped in privilege. Marcus found me there sobbing on the bathroom floor. He held me as I shook, whispering reassurances I couldn't quite believe. "How did you process learning your entire life was built on blood?" "We have to go," he said gently. "It's almost time to meet David." I splashed water on my face, staring at my reflection. I looked like her, like Charlotte Morrison. Same green eyes, same sharp cheekbones, but I would not be her. I would not choose power over people. The drive to Riverside took 40 minutes. The facility sat on the outskirts of Westbrook, hidden behind trees and high walls. It looked more like a country estate than a psychiatric hospital, which was probably the point. Rich families could warehouse their inconvenient relatives here without feeling guilty. David was already there with a team of 6 agents. He looked exactly like Marcus had described, solid, competent, angry at the corruption he'd spent years fighting. "Miss Morrison," he greeted me, "I'm sorry about what you're going through. No one should discover their family is capable of this." "They're not my family anymore," I said firmly. "Family doesn't do this to each other." He nodded approvingly. "The warrant's specific to Sarah Chen, but my team will secure any other evidence we find. Are you prepared for what you might see? 5 years of forced psychiatric treatment. She may not be the person you remember. She's still Sarah. That's all that matters." We approached the facility's main entrance. The night security guard took one look at the FBI badges and federal warrant and practically tripped over himself to cooperate. Word of Rosa's accident had probably already spread. No one wanted to be the next casualty of the Morrison family's cleanup. "Building C," I told David, "room unknown. Pull up all records for Sarah Chen." David ordered the guard. "Now." The man's fingers flew over his keyboard. Room C47, high security wing. Dr. Reeves is her primary physician. "Get Dr. Reeves here immediately." "He's not on duty tonight." "Then wake him up." As we waited, I studied the facility's lobby. Tasteful art, soft lighting, fresh flowers. It could have been a luxury hotel if not for the subtle signs. Reinforced glass, doors that locked electronically, cameras covering every angle. This was a prison dressed in silk. Dr. Reeves arrived within 20 minutes, hair disheveled, clothes hastily thrown on. He took one look at the FBI presence and went pale. "I don't know what this is about," he started. "Save it," David cut him off. "We have recordings of you agreeing to illegally hold Sarah Chen. You can cooperate and maybe avoid life in prison, or you can lawyer up and definitely spend your remaining years behind bars. Choose." The doctor's shoulders sagged. "I'll cooperate." "Smart choice. Take us to her, now." Building C was a different world from the serene lobby. Here the pretense dropped. Metal doors, harsh lighting, the smell of industrial disinfectant mixed with something else. Despair. Room C47 was at the end of a long corridor. Dr. Reeves's hands shook as he unlocked it. "She's scheduled for her morning medication in 2 hours. She'll be more lucid now, but potentially agitated. The drugs they build up in the system." "What drugs?" I demanded. He rattled off a list that made my nursing school friends would have been horrified by. Antipsychotics, sedatives, mood stabilizers, enough to keep an elephant docile, let alone a woman. "You tortured her," I said flatly. "For 5 years you tortured her." I was following orders. The family said she was dangerous. The only dangerous thing about her was the truth. David pushed past him and opened the door. The room beyond was small, white, sterile. A single bed, a chair, a barred window, and on the bed, curled in the fetal position, was Sarah. Or what was left of her. She was skeletal, her once glossy black hair now brittle and gray-streaked. Her eyes, when they focused on us, were clouded with chemicals. But somewhere in their depths, I saw a flicker of the girl who'd strung colored yarn across our dorm room, mapping corruption. "Sarah," I whispered, approaching slowly. "It's Brianne. I'm here to take you home." She blinked, slowly processing. Then in a voice hoarse from screaming or disuse, she spoke. "Brianne, you came." "I'm so sorry," I sobbed, falling to my knees beside her bed. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I'm so sorry I didn't look for you. I'm sorry it took me 5 years." Her skeletal hand touched my face. "You came. That's what matters." David's team worked quickly gathering medical records while paramedics checked Sarah's vitals. She was malnourished, overmedicated, but alive. Damaged, but not broken. "The documents!" she whispered urgently, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "Did they destroy them?" "No, I have them. All of them. Plus more. We're going to expose everything." A smile, the first real expression I'd seen, crossed her face. "Good. They need to pay." They will, I promised, starting with my mother. As the paramedics prepared to transport Sarah to a real hospital, one where she'd be treated as a victim rather than a patient, my phone rang. Tyler. I answered, putting him on speaker for David to hear. Clever bringing the feds. My brother's voice was casual, but I heard the underlying fury. But you're too late. Mom's already at the courthouse filing emergency motions. Dad's calling in favors. By morning, your friend will be back in custody and you'll be facing charges for theft, breaking, and entering and interfering with medical treatment. It's over, Tyler. We have everything. The recordings, the murders, the order, it's all coming out. He laughed, the same cruel sound from the party. You think you're the hero here. You think you're saving the day. You're just a spoiled little girl who couldn't handle reality. We offered you everything. Power, wealth, position. And you threw it away for what? A college friend who couldn't mind her own business. I threw it away for the truth. Truth. He spat the word like profanity. Truth is what we say it is. Justice is what we decide. That's how it's always worked. That's how it always will work. Not anymore. We'll see. Oh, and Brianne, you might want to check on Marcus. Investment banking is such a dangerous profession. All those late nights, all that stress, people snap. The line went dead. Marcus, I screamed, but David was already on his radio dispatching units to Marcus's apartment. Sarah squeezed my hand weakly. Don't let them win, she whispered. Whatever happens, don't let them win. As the ambulance doors closed on Sarah, I made a decision. My family thought they could threaten and intimidate their way out of this. They thought I'd crumble, choose Marcus's safety over justice. They were wrong. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Amanda Chen's contact at the Washington Post. It was 5 a.m. In 2 hours, the East Coast would wake up to the biggest scandal in judicial history. But first, I had one more call to make. The phone rang twice before she answered. My mother's voice was crystalline with rage. You stupid child. Do you know what you've done? Yes, I said calmly. I've ended you. Check your email, Mother. I just sent you a preview of tomorrow's headlines, or should I say this morning's headlines. Silence. Then the sound of keys clicking, a sharp intake of breath. You're going to prison, I continued. You dad, Tyler, the order, everyone. Sarah's alive and she's going to testify. Rosa's death is being investigated as murder. Your victims are going to be heard. I'll destroy you, she hissed. You'll have nothing. No family, no trust fund, no future. I'll have my soul, I replied. That's more than you ever had. I hung up and made the second call. Amanda Chen answered on the first ring, journalist instincts alert despite the early hour. Brianne Morrison, it's been years. What's wrong? Amanda, I have a story for you. The story of your career, but I need you to move fast. Lives are at stake. Send me what you have. As I forwarded the files, I thought about the slap that started it all. My mother's hand across my face, trying to keep me in line. Tyler's applause. My father's smirk. They'd thought they were punishing me. Instead, they'd set me free. Dawn was breaking over Connecticut, painting the sky crimson. Appropriate, I thought. It looked like blood. By noon, their blood would be in the water, and the sharks would feast. The FBI escort rushed me from Riverside as dawn broke across Connecticut. David had 3 agents with me while he coordinated the rest of his team. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls from blocked numbers, but I ignored them all. Let my family panic. Let them feel what Sarah had felt for 5 years. Marcus is secure, David informed me as we drove. Tyler had men watching his building, but we got there first. He's being moved to a safe house. Relief flooded through me. Thank God. This is far from over, David warned. Your family has resources, connections. They'll fight dirty. As if to prove his point, my phone exploded with notifications. Someone had leaked my college records, including a sealed disciplinary action for underage drinking. Photos from spring break in Cabo, carefully cropped to look compromising. A fake social media account in my name posting racist comments. They're trying to discredit me, I realized. Standard playbook, attack the messenger, muddy the waters, but we expected this. David held up his tablet showing the Washington Post homepage. Amanda Chen went live 20 minutes ago. The headline screamed, Connecticut's first family exposed judges, prosecutors in massive corruption ring. But it was the subheading that made my heart race. Kidnapped journalist Sarah Chen found alive after 5 years of forced psychiatric imprisonment. It's out there, I breathed. They can't stop it now. That's when Tyler's Porsche slammed into our SUV from behind. The impact threw me against the seatbelt, tasting blood as I bit my tongue. David was already on the radio calling for backup as our driver tried to maintain control. "He's coming around for another hit," the agent beside me shouted. I turned to see my brother's face through his windshield, twisted with rage. The golden boy prosecutor who'd never lost a case was losing everything, and he blamed me. Our driver swerved onto an exit ramp, tires screaming. Tyler followed his sports car, more agile than our heavy SUV. We were heading into the industrial district, empty at this early hour. "Where's backup?" David demanded. 5 minutes out, came the response. Tyler rammed us again, harder this time. Our SUV fishtailed, clipped a guardrail, and went airborne. Time slowed. I saw David's eyes go wide, felt the strange weightlessness of freefall, heard someone screaming, and realized it was me. We hit hard, rolling twice before coming to rest upside down in a drainage ditch. My head rang vision blurry. Blood dripped upward from a cut on my forehead. "Everyone alive?" David's voice seemed distant. Groans answered him. Alive, but battered. I fumbled with my seatbelt, finally releasing it and falling onto the SUV's ceiling. "We need to move," David said urgently. "He's coming back." Through the shattered window, I saw Tyler's Porsche pull up. My brother stepped out and my blood froze. He was holding a gun. "Run," David ordered, kicking out the rear window. "Get to those warehouses. I'll cover you." I didn't need to be told twice. Adrenaline overrode pain as I scrambled out and ran. Behind me, I heard Tyler's voice. "You destroyed everything, Brianne." Everything we built. A gunshot cracked through the morning air. Then another. I didn't look back, just ran toward the nearest warehouse. The door was padlocked, but beside it, a broken window offered entry. I squeezed through, ignoring the glass that tore my dress. Inside was a maze of machinery and shadows. I pressed myself against a cold metal wall, trying to control my breathing. Through the window, I could see David and his team had taken cover behind the SUV, exchanging fire with Tyler. My phone, miraculously intact, vibrated. "Marcus, are you okay? The news said there was an accident." "Tyler," I whispered. "He's trying to kill me. I'm hiding in a warehouse off Route 91. "I'm coming with backup." "No, it's too dangerous." 20 minutes, he said firmly. "Stay hidden." The gunfire outside stopped. In the sudden silence, I heard footsteps on gravel. Tyler had gotten past the agents. "Brianne," his voice echoed through the warehouse. "Come out and face me like a Morrison." I crept deeper into the building, using the industrial equipment as cover. Conveyor belts and packaging machines created a mechanical forest. Somewhere in here I could hide until help arrived. "You know what the funny thing is?" Tyler's voice was conversational now, terrifying in its calmness. "I actually admired you once. My little sister, so bright, so determined. I thought you'd join us eventually, become part of the family business." I squeezed between two machines, holding my breath, as his footsteps came closer. "But you were always too soft, like Sarah, like Grandma. Do you know she begged at the end? Promised to stay quiet if we just let her live." Rage flooded through me. I picked up a wrench from a nearby toolbox, hefting its weight. If he found me, I wouldn't go down without a fight. Mom pushed her down those stairs herself, said it was a lesson in loyalty. Family first always. Anyone who threatens the family dies. His footsteps were right on the other side of the machine now. I could hear his breathing, see his shadow through a gap in the metal. "But you had to be the hero, didn't you? Had to save poor crazy Sarah." "Well, guess what? Heroes die young in our family." He rounded the corner, gun raised, just as I swung the wrench. It connected with his wrist, sending the weapon spinning away. Tyler howled, clutching his broken wrist, but still managed to tackle me with his good arm. We went down hard on the concrete floor, grappling for control. Tyler was stronger, but I was fighting for my life. I clawed at his face, drawing blood while he tried to pin me down. You killed Rosa, I screamed. You killed an innocent woman. She wasn't innocent. He backhanded me across the face, the same spot where Mother had slapped me. She was a traitor, just like you. I kneed him in the groin, using his moment of agony to scramble away, but he caught my ankle, dragging me back. The order doesn't forgive, Brianne. Even if you expose us, they'll hunt you forever. You'll never be safe. Marcus will never be safe. Every day you'll wonder if today's the day someone collects the price on your head. Then I'll die knowing I did the right thing. I kicked him in the face with my free foot, hearing his nose crunch. He released me, cursing and spitting blood. I ran for the gun, but he was right behind me. We reached it at the same time, both hands on the weapon, wrestling for control. The barrel swung wildly between us. Tyler's eyes were wild, blood streaming from his broken nose. You were my sister, he gasped. I protected you from so much, kept you clean while I got my hands dirty, and this is how you repay me. You protected yourself, I spat back. Everything you did was for you. The gun went off. For a moment, we both froze, unsure who'd been hit. Then Tyler's grip loosened. He looked down at the spreading red stain on his shirt, surprise replacing rage. You shot me, he whispered. You actually shot me. He collapsed, and I caught him instinctively. Despite everything, he was still my brother. The boy who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd threatened my first boyfriend when he broke my heart. Before the corruption, before the murders, before he became a monster. I'm sorry, I sobbed, pressing my hands against the wound. I'm so sorry, Tyler. He laughed, a wet, horrible sound. No, you're not. You're just like us, Brianne. When pushed, you'll kill to survive. Welcome to the family business. His eyes fluttered closed just as David burst through the door with reinforcements, paramedics on their heels. They took over, working frantically to save the brother who'd tried to kill me. It was self-defense, David assured me as he wrapped a shock blanket around my shoulders. We saw everything. I watched them load Tyler onto a gurney, his face pale but chest still rising and falling. Alive. He'd lived to stand trial, to face justice for his crimes. Part of me was relieved. Part of me wished I'd aimed better. Brianne! Marcus's voice cut through my shock. He pushed past the police tape, gathering me into his arms. Thank God you're okay. I collapsed against him, the adrenaline finally fading. Everything hurt. My body from the crash, my heart from the betrayal, my soul from nearly killing my own brother. It's over, I whispered. No, Marcus corrected gently. It's just beginning. Look. He showed me his phone. The story had gone viral. Every major news outlet was picking it up. Morrison's scandal was trending worldwide. Videos of Tyler attacking our FBI escort were already circulating. Your parents have barricaded themselves in the estate, David reported. We have teams moving in now. With Tyler's arrest and the evidence you provided, their lawyers are recommending surrender. The order, scrambling, destroying evidence, fleeing jurisdiction, but we'll get them. Your testimony combined with Sarah's will ensure that. I thought about Tyler's threat. The order doesn't forgive. They'd come for me eventually, but looking at the warehouse where I'd fought for my life, where I'd chosen truth over blood, I felt no regret. What happens now? I asked. Now you rest, Marcus said firmly. Heal, then we rebuild, away from their shadow, their legacy. As the paramedics checked my injuries, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, expecting another threat, but something made me open it. It was from Emma, my best friend from childhood, who'd moved away junior year. Saw the news. So proud of you for finally standing up to them. I have information about the order that might help. Call me when you're safe. I stared at the message. Emma, sweet, quiet Emma, who'd always been terrified of my parents. What is it? Marcus asked, seeing my expression. I think, I said slowly, we're about to find out how deep this really goes. The warehouse doors opened to reveal a crowd of reporters, cameras flashing microphones thrust forward. They shouted questions about my family, about Sarah, about the shooting. The story of the century and I was at its center, but I didn't answer. Not yet. First, I had calls to make. Emma, Sarah recovering in the hospital, Amanda Chen, who deserved an exclusive after breaking the story. And eventually, when I was ready, I'd face my parents. Look them in the eye as they wore handcuffs instead of designer clothes. Ask them if it was worth it, if power tasted sweet enough to justify all the blood. Tyler was wrong. I wasn't like them. I'd pulled that trigger to save my life, not to silence truth. That was the difference between justice and corruption. As we drove away from the warehouse, Hartford waking up to a new reality where the Morrison name meant shame instead of power, I made myself a promise. I would testify. I would help tear down the order. I would spend the rest of my life making amends for my family's crimes. And I would never, ever let fear silence me again. The safe house was a modest colonial in Glastonbury, anonymous and secure. FBI agents patrolled the perimeter, while inside I sat at a kitchen table that had seen better days, staring at Emma's message. Marcus handed me a cup of tea, his own hands still shaking from the morning's events. "You need to eat something," he said gently. "I need to call Emma." I showed him the message again. She knows something about the order. David entered, looking exhausted but determined. "Your parents are in custody. They surrendered an hour ago. Your mother demanded to speak only to you." "Of course she did." I set down the phone, still trying to control the narrative. "You don't have to see her ever again if you don't want to." I thought about it. The woman who'd raised me, who'd slapped me for choosing truth over complicity, who'd ordered my best friend imprisoned and drugged for 5 years. Did I need closure? Or would facing her just give her another chance to manipulate me? Maybe later, I decided. First, Emma. I dialed the number from the message. She answered on the second ring. "Brianne, is it really you?" Her voice was different, harder. The shy girl who used to sleep over and braid friendship bracelets had grown edges. "It's me, Emma, your message." "Not over the phone? Can you meet safely?" I looked at David, who nodded. "Tell me where." "The old bookstore on Main Street, where we used to hide from your parents when they were fighting. 1 hour." She hung up before I could ask questions. I remembered that bookstore, dusty tomes owned by Mr. Peterson, who let us read in the back room when we were kids. He'd never asked why 2 privileged girls needed sanctuary. "I'll set up security," David said. "If she has information about the order, we need it." "I want to call Sarah first," I said. "Make sure she's okay." The hospital transferred me to her room. Her voice was clearer than at Riverside, though still weak. "Brianne, did you see the news were everywhere? How are you feeling?" "Like I'm waking up from the world's worst nightmare. The doctors say it'll take months to get all the drugs out of my system, but I'm lucid. I'm remembering things. Names, dates, documents. The FBI has someone taking my statement." "I'm so sorry, Sarah, for everything." "Stop. You saved me. That's what matters." She paused. "Your brother." "In surgery, he'll live." "Good. I want him to rot in prison for decades. Death would be too easy." The venom in her voice was justified but still jarring. The Sarah I'd known was passionate but never cruel. 5 years of torture had changed her, changed us both. "There's something else," I said, telling her about Emma's message. "Emma Hartwell, quiet girl, always reading." "That's her. She says she has information." "Be careful, Bree. The order had people everywhere, sometimes in places you'd never suspect." After promising to visit soon, I hung up and prepared for the meeting. David insisted on a full security detail, but I convinced him to keep them discreet. If Emma was scared, too much FBI presence might spook her. Dusty tomes looked exactly as I remembered. Narrow aisles crammed with books, the smell of old paper and vanilla classical music playing softly. Mr. Peterson was behind the counter, white-haired now but still sharp-eyed. "Brianne Morrison," he said, not unkindly. "Or should I say Brianne the Truth Seeker? That's what they're calling you online." "Just Brianne. Is Emma here?" He gestured toward the back room. "She's waiting. And Brianne, what you did took courage. Your grandmother would be proud." "You knew my grandmother. She was a regular here. Loved mystery novels. Said they helped her solve real puzzles." His eyes twinkled sadly. "She was investigating the order when she died. Told me if anything happened to her, it wouldn't be an accident." Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. How many people had known the truth but stayed silent out of fear? Emma sat in the same corner where we'd spent countless afternoons, but she looked like a different person. Gone was the mousy teenager. This Emma wore a sharp suit, her posture confident, her eyes watchful. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Emma, what's going on? What do you know about the order?" She pulled out a thick folder. "Everything, because I've been investigating them for 7 years. After I moved away junior year, it wasn't because my dad got transferred. It was because the order threatened my family. My father had discovered irregularities in state pension funds, money disappearing being funneled through shell companies connected to judges and politicians, including my parents. Your parents were middle management. The order goes much higher." She opened the folder revealing charts and photographs. "Senators, federal judges, heads of major corporations. They've been operating since the 1920s, founded by industrialist families who wanted to control legal and political systems." I stared at the organizational chart. My family's names were there, but so were dozens of others. Some I recognized from newspaper headlines, others from charity galas and political fundraisers. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" With what proof they killed my father, Brianne, made it look like a heart attack. My mother and I have been in witness protection ever since, but I kept investigating, carefully, quietly, waiting for someone on the inside to break ranks. And that someone is me. Your grandmother tried first. She came here to this very room, showed Mr. Peterson documents she'd found, but she made the mistake of confronting your parents first, giving them time to prepare. I thought about Tyler's confession in the warehouse. Mom pushed her herself, a lesson in loyalty. What the order doesn't know, Emma continued, is that I've been feeding information to journalists and federal investigators for years. Small pieces, nothing traceable to me, but your evidence combined with mine. We can destroy them all. It won't be easy. They have resources we can't imagine. Safe houses in non-extradition countries, assassins on retainer, judges who will throw out cases. But we have the truth. Emma smiled, and for a moment I saw the girl who'd made friendship bracelets. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's not, which is why I've been preparing for this day. She pulled out a phone, not her personal one, but a burner. "This is the first call you need to make. It's to a federal judge in California outside the order's reach. She's been building a RICO case for 5 years, waiting for witnesses brave enough to testify." I took the phone with trembling hands. "What's her name?" "Judge Patricia Nakamura, your grandmother's former law school roommate. She's been waiting for this call since Charlotte Morrison pushed her best friend down a staircase." The number was already programmed. All I had to do was press send, but I hesitated. "Once I make this call, there's no going back." "There's already no going back," Emma pointed out. "You shot your brother, exposed your parents. The order knows you're a threat. The only question is whether you'll hide or fight." She was right. I pressed send. "Judge Nakamura's office," a crisp voice answered. "This is Brianne Morrison. I understand the judge has been expecting my call." A pause. "Please hold." Moments later, a different voice came on, older, steady with steel underneath. "Brianne, I've been waiting 20 years for this call. Your grandmother was my dearest friend. Tell me you have what we need to bring them down." "I have documents, recordings, financial records. My friend Sarah Chen is alive and willing to testify. Emma Hartwell has 7 years of investigation, and I have intimate knowledge of how the order operates." Thank God. The relief in her voice was palpable. "I've been building this case in secret, using only investigators I trust completely. With your evidence and testimony, we can issue federal indictments that no corrupt state judge can dismiss." "How many people are we talking about?" "At last, count over 200 members of the order across 6 states. This will be the largest corruption case in American history." The magnitude of it stole my breath. 200 powerful people who'd kill to protect their secrets, who'd already killed for less. "I need you to come to California," Judge Nakamura continued. "Testify before a grand jury I've been secretly convening. Can you travel?" I looked at Emma, who nodded. "We can be there tomorrow." "Good. I'll send U.S. Marshals to escort you. Trust no one else, not even FB. The order has people everywhere." Judge Nakamura, my grandmother. Was it quick? A heavy sigh. I've seen the autopsy reports. It was not quick, but she fought. Scratched her attacker, got DNA under her nails, your mother's DNA. We've been waiting for enough evidence to use it. My mother. Not Tyler carrying out orders. Not my father making arrangements. My mother's own hands had murdered her mother. She'll pay, I promised. They'll all pay. Yes, Judge Nakamura agreed. They will. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, Brianne. She loved you more than anything. Everything she did was to protect you from them. After hanging up, I sat in silence, processing. Emma reached across the table and took my hand, just like when we were children. The second call, she said gently. You need to make it now while you have momentum. The second call? She smiled sadly. The one that ensures you can never go back. The one that burns every bridge to your old life but lights the way forward. She handed me my own phone. On the screen was a contact I'd saved but never used. A direct line I'd been given during my internship but told only to call in case of the story of the century. Amanda Chen, The Washington Post. She has the basic story, Emma said, but she needs the details only you can provide, the personal side, the family dinners where they discussed murder over wine, the Christmas mornings built on blood money, the real Morrison family story. My finger hovered over the call button. This wasn't just about evidence anymore. This was about laying my family's sins bare for the world to judge. No more Morrison mystique, no more respectability, just the ugly truth. They killed Rosa, I said quietly. They destroyed Sarah. They murdered my grandmother. How many others? Too many, but it ends now with these calls. I pressed send. Amanda answered immediately. Brianne, I've been hoping you'd call. The initial story is already the most read piece in post-history, but I know there's more. So much more. Clear your schedule, I told her. I'm going to tell you everything. Every crime, every cover-up, every body. But I want something in return. Name it. Protection for the witnesses. Sarah, Emma, everyone who comes forward. And a promise that you'll keep digging even after I testify. The order won't die easily. You have my word. And Brianne, we've already got 3 more victims coming forward after seeing Sarah's story. Your courage is contagious. We talked for 2 hours. I gave her names, dates, crimes I'd witnessed or overheard. The prosecutor who'd been blackmailed into silence. The businessman who'd refused to pay and whose company mysteriously burned down. The social worker who'd asked too many questions about a judge's ruling and disappeared. By the time I finished, Amanda was quietly crying. In 30 years of journalism, I've never heard anything like this. They're monsters, Brianne. Complete monsters. No, I corrected. They're humans who chose power over humanity. That's worse than monsters. Monsters can't help what they are. After we hung up, I felt drained but somehow lighter. The calls were made. The avalanche had started. There was no stopping it now. Emma stood. We should go. The marshals will be here soon to take us to the airport. What about you? After you testify, where will you go? Somewhere they can't find me, at least until the trials are over. Maybe teaching like I always wanted, under a new name, a new life. She smiled sadly. The order took my father and my future, but at least I'll see them pay for it. As we left Dusty Tomes, Mr. Peterson pressed something into my hand. A worn, paperback mystery novel. Your grandmother's favorite, he said. She left it here the day before she died, said if anything happened to give it to you when you were ready. I opened the cover. There, in my grandmother's handwriting, was a note. My darling Brianne, if you're reading this, you found the courage I always knew you possessed. The truth is a heavy burden, but silence is heavier. I love you. Stand tall, fight hard, win. All my love, Grandma. I clutched the book to my chest as we walked to the waiting car. Emma was right. There was no going back to the life I'd known. But maybe that life had never been worth preserving. Built on lies and blood, it was always destined to fall. The question now was what would rise from its ashes, and whether I'd survive to see it. The flight to California passed in a blur of Marshall's secure phones and constant updates. Sarah was stable but fragile, her system still fighting off 5 years of chemical restraints. Tyler had survived surgery but was under guard facing attempted murder charges along with his corruption indictments. My parents had lawyered up with the order's best, but even they couldn't spin their way out of recorded confessions and documented murders. Judge Nakamura met us at a secure federal facility in Sacramento. She looked exactly like her voice suggested. Strong, composed with eyes that had seen too much but refused to look away. Your grandmother spoke of you constantly, she said, embracing me like family. Patricia this, Patricia that. How you were going to change the world someday. She'd be so proud that her faith was justified. I don't feel like I'm changing the world, I admitted. I feel like I'm destroying it. Sometimes destruction is necessary for renewal. The order has been a cancer in our justice system for a century. Surgery is painful but necessary. She led us to a conference room where her team waited. Prosecutors, investigators, security specialists, all carefully vetted, all working in secret for years. Before we begin, Judge Nakamura said, there's something you need to know. The order is already retaliating. 3 witnesses have recanted their statements. 2 others have disappeared. They're throwing money and threats at anyone who might testify. So we're losing, Emma asked. No, we're winnowing. Finding out who has the courage to see this through. She looked at me. Your testimony is crucial. You're Charlotte Morrison's daughter. You lived in that house, heard those conversations. Juries will believe you in ways they might not believe outsiders. When do we start? Tomorrow. Grand jury convenes at 9. But tonight, I need you to do something else. She slid a folder across the table. These are 5 people currently being held in order-controlled facilities like Sarah was. Psychiatric hospitals, private prisons, rehabilitation centers. We have warrants to extract them, but I need someone who understands the order's methods to help identify them. I opened the folder. 5 faces stared back. A prosecutor who'd refused to fix cases, an accountant who'd questioned suspicious transactions, a journalist who'd gotten too close, a social worker who'd reported judicial misconduct, a cop who'd tried to investigate a judge. Where are they being held? Various facilities across California and Nevada, all owned by shell companies connected to the order. We're planning simultaneous raids tomorrow night after your grand jury testimony provides additional probable cause. I want to be there, I said immediately. When you get them out, I want to be there. Absolutely not, the lead marshal interjected. You're a witness, not law enforcement. I'm the reason Sarah is free. I know how these places operate, how they break people. Those victims will be traumatized, drugged, terrified. They need to see a face that understands. Judge Nakamura considered this. She has a point. Brianne's presence could be reassuring, proof that escape is possible. It's too dangerous, the marshal insisted. My whole life is dangerous now, I countered. At least let me help save others while I'm risking it. After much debate, a compromise was reached. I could accompany the raid team to one facility, the closest one where the journalist was being held. Emma would stay behind working with prosecutors to correlate our evidence. That night in my hotel room with marshals outside the door, I video called Sarah. She was sitting up, looking more like herself, despite the hospital gown. You're testifying tomorrow, she asked. 9 a.m. Are you scared? Terrified, but also relieved. 5 years of silence is a long time. My voice feels rusty, but it wants to be heard. Sarah, I need to ask you something. In that facility, what kept you sane? What kept you from believing their lies about your sanity? She thought for a moment. Anger at first, then determination, but mostly the truth. They could drug my body, but not my memories. I knew what I'd seen, what I'd discovered. Every time they told me I was delusional, I recited facts in my head. Names, dates, crimes. The truth was my anchor. These people we're rescuing tomorrow. How do we help them remember their truth? Remind them why they're there. Not because they're sick, but because they're dangerous to corrupt people. Their imprisonment is proof of their integrity. That's what I told myself every day. After we hung up, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, I would face a grand jury and relive my family's horrors. Tomorrow night, I'd help rescue another order victim. And after that, trial prep, death threats, a life in witness protection. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Couldn't sleep either. I love you. Whatever happens, remember that. I smiled despite everything. At least I wasn't facing this alone. Morning came too soon. The federal courthouse was a fortress of security. Metal detectors guards, bomb-sniffing dogs. The order had already made 3 threats against Judge Nakamura's life. They wouldn't hesitate to target a grand jury. Inside the sealed courtroom, 23 citizens waited to hear testimony that would shake their faith in justice itself. I was sworn in the weight of the oath heavy on my tongue. Truth, whole truth, nothing but. For 6 hours I spoke. Every crime I'd witnessed or overheard. Every victim I could name. The prosecutor guided me through dates and details while I fought to keep my voice steady. When I described finding Rosa's body, several jurors wept. When I played Tyler's confession about our grandmother, one man had to leave the room. Miss Morrison, the prosecutor asked finally, "Do you believe the order can be stopped?" "Yes," I said firmly. "They're powerful but not invincible. They rely on fear and silence. Every person who speaks breaks their power a little more. Every truth told is a crack in their foundation. Even knowing the danger to yourself, especially knowing the danger. If I stay silent from fear, Rosa died for nothing. Sarah suffered for nothing. My grandmother's murder goes unavenged. I can't live with that." When it ended, Judge Nakamura met me outside. "They'll indict," she said simply. "Every single name we gave them. The warrants are being signed as we speak." But there was no time to celebrate. Night was falling, and across the state, 5 rescue operations were beginning. I was fitted with a bulletproof vest, given strict instructions to stay with the tactical team, and driven to a facility outside Fresno. Whispering Pines Rehabilitation Center looked deceptively peaceful. Spanish architecture, manicured lawns, no visible bars on windows, but I recognized the subtle signs. Reinforced glass, security cameras, doors that only open from outside. Maria Santos, the team leader, briefed us showing the journalist's photo. Age 32, investigating judicial corruption in Fresno County when she was involuntarily committed 13 months ago. Diagnosis: bipolar disorder with paranoid features. No history of mental illness before her investigation. Room number B24, high security wing. Dr. Morrison is the attending physician. I froze. Morrison, that's my mother's maiden name. The team leader checked his notes. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison. Any relation? My aunt. My mother's sister. The pieces clicked horribly into place. Oh God, this is a family business in every sense. Are you compromised? Should you sit this out? No, I need to see this. Need to see how deep the rot goes. The raid began at midnight. Federal agents swept through the facility with practiced efficiency while I waited in the command vehicle watching through cameras mounted on their helmets. Staff members were detained, computers seized, patients checked. Then they reached B24. Maria Santos looked like a ghost of her former self. Thin, hollow-eyed, rocking slowly on her bed. But when the agents announced themselves as federal officers, something sparked in her eyes. "You're real," she whispered. "Not another hallucination." "We're real, Maria. We're here to take you home." She started crying. "They said I made it all up, that the judges were good people, that I was sick. They said it so many times I started to believe them." "Can you walk?" I think so. The evening meds make me dizzy, but I can try." That's when my aunt appeared in the doorway. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, looking so much like my mother it made me sick. The same cold eyes, the same cruel mouth. "You can't take my patient. She's a danger to herself and others." "We have a federal warrant," the agent said, showing the document. "I'll call my lawyer. This patient is severely mentally ill. Removing her from care could be catastrophic." The agent's body camera turned, and through the screen my aunt saw me in the command vehicle. Her face went white. "Brianne." I grabbed the radio. "Hello, Aunt Liz. Funny how you never mentioned working here at family dinners. You don't understand. These people are actually sick. They need help." The only sickness here is the order, and you're about to be quarantined. The agents moved past her, helping Maria walk on unsteady legs. My aunt was arrested, her protests echoing through the halls. Other patients peered out of rooms wondering if rescue had come for them too. In the vehicle, Maria was wrapped in blankets, a paramedic checking her vitals. I sat beside her holding her hand. "You're Charlotte Morrison's daughter," she said, recognizing me from the news. "You're the one who exposed them." "I'm trying. Maria, do you remember what you were investigating?" Her eyes sharpened, pushing through the chemical fog. "Judge Harold Chen, taking bribes to fix sentences. I had documents, recordings. They're in my apartment, hidden in—" She swayed, fighting the drugs. "It's okay," I soothed. "We'll get them. You're safe now." "No," she gripped my hand. "Listen, the order has a list. Everyone who's ever opposed them, hundreds of names, thousands. They're planning something big if the trials move forward. Mass casualties to silence witnesses." "Where's the list?" "Judge Chen's computer. Password is order first. I saw it before they took me." She passed out, then overwhelmed by medication and emotion. But she'd given us a gift. A thread to pull that might unravel the order's contingency plans. The raid was a success. All 5 victims recovered alive, though in various states of chemical dependency and psychological trauma. My aunt's arrest made headlines. Morrison, family corruption runs deeper. Judge's sister imprisoned journalists. Back at the hotel, I couldn't stop shaking. Emma held me as I sobbed. My own aunt. How many more family members are involved? How many people at Christmas dinner were murderers? "That's not your fault," Emma insisted. "You didn't choose your family." "But I benefited from them. Every privilege, every opportunity built on suffering. And now you're tearing it all down. That matters." My phone rang. Unknown number. Against protocol, I answered. "You think you've won?" My mother's voice was arctic. "You saved 5 people, we have hundreds. You exposed a few dozen members, we have thousands. The order has existed for a century. You're just a blip in our history." "Maybe, but I'm a blip that's going to destroy you." "You've destroyed yourself. After the trials, after your moment of heroism, what then? A life in hiding, always looking over your shoulder? You gave up everything for strangers who don't even know your name." Wrong. I gave up lies for truth, complicity for justice. And those strangers, they're all someone's daughter, someone's friend, just like Sarah was mine. Sarah's testimony won't hold up. 5 years of psychiatric treatment, any decent lawyer will destroy her credibility. Maybe, but Maria Santos's will, and the others we rescued, and the ones who will come forward when they see it's possible. You created too many victims, Mother. Eventually, numbers overwhelm even your influence. She was quiet for a moment. Then, in a voice I'd never heard before, she said, "I was trying to protect you. Everything I did was to secure your future." "No, everything you did was to secure your power. I was just an accessory like your designer bags. Well, this accessory just brought down your empire." I hung up and threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, but I felt no satisfaction, just emptiness where my family used to be. That night, Judge Nakamura called with updates. Raids across 6 states had netted 43 arrests. Dozens of victims were being recovered from illegal detention. The order's financial network was frozen. "It's working," she said. "Your testimony gave us what we needed. Brianne, you've saved lives today." But as I lay in bed, marshals outside my door, I wondered what salvation really looked like. Maria Santos was free, but would struggle with induced addiction for months. Sarah was herself again, but would never recover 5 stolen years. Rosa was dead. My grandmother was dead. Justice wasn't resurrection. It couldn't undo damage or raise the dead. All it could do was prevent future harm and punish past crimes. It had to be enough because it was all we had. Tomorrow would bring more testimony, more revelations, more threats. The order would fight back with everything they had. People would die before this ended. But tonight, 5 people slept in real beds instead of psychiatric prisons. 5 families had hope instead of despair. 5 truths had been validated instead of silenced. It was a start. And sometimes a start is all you need to change everything. Dawn came with sirens. I jolted awake to the sound of breaking glass and Emma screaming. The hotel room door exploded inward and masked figures poured in. Not federal marshals, not FBI. These were order operatives here to silence us before we could testify again. Window, Emma shouted, already moving. We were 3 floors up, but the alternative was certain death. I grabbed the bed sheets, years of summer camp knots, finally useful, and tied them to the radiator. The men were almost on us when we rappelled down, sheets tearing but holding long enough to break our fall into the hotel pool. Cold water shocked my system. I surfaced, gasping, to see Emma beside me, blood streaming from a glass cut on her forehead. Above us, figures appeared at the window. Run. We hauled ourselves out and sprinted across the parking lot in bare feet and pajamas. Behind us, shouts and footsteps. A black SUV screeched around the corner, blocking our path. But the door opened to reveal David from the FBI. Get in, your marshal detail was compromised. Inside job. We dove in as bullets shattered the rear window. David floored it, weaving through early morning traffic while radioing for backup. Judge Nakamura? I asked. Safe. They hit 3 locations simultaneously, yours, hers, and Sarah's hospital, but we were ready. Sarah. Secure. We moved her last night after Maria's intel about the kill list. Good thing, too. They sent a full strike team to her room. Emma was shaking beside me, adrenaline crashing. How did they find us? That location was classified. The order has had decades to embed operatives everywhere. CIA, FBI, Marshal Service. We're fighting an octopus that's wrapped around every institution. David took a hard turn onto the highway. But we got lucky. One of their teams was captured alive. They're talking. Talking about what? The Order's panic protocol. If more than 50 members are arrested, they activate something called Prometheus. Burn everything down rather than let it be exposed. What does that mean? Mass casualties. They have operatives in airports, train stations, hospitals. The plan is to create so much chaos that our investigation gets buried under terrorism task forces and emergency responses. Dear God, how many people? Thousands, unless we stop them first. He drove us to a new safe house, this one a converted missile silo 2 hours into the desert, underground, fortified with its own generators and water supply. If the order wanted us now, they'd need an army. Judge Nakamura was already there, surrounded by screens showing feeds from across the country. Arrests were happening hourly as sealed indictments were opened. The order's century of power was crumbling in real time. Brianne, Emma, she greeted us. Thank God you're safe. We've had 2 witnesses killed already, 3 more missing, but the grand juries are still convening. We're winning. Tell that to the people they're planning to murder, I said, collapsing into a chair. This Prometheus protocol? We're working on it. Maria Santos gave us Judge Chen's password. Our cyber team is mining his computers for the target list. Once we have it, we can deploy protection. How long? Hours. Maybe less, but the order knows we're onto them. They've accelerated the timeline. On the screens, I watched my parents being transferred to federal custody. They looked smaller in orange jumpsuits, their power stripped away with their designer clothes. Tyler was in medical custody, handcuffed to his hospital bed. My aunt had already flipped, offering testimony for a reduced sentence. Your family is turning on each other, Judge Nakamura observed. Your father is blaming your mother. Your mother is blaming the order leadership. Tyler is claiming he was just following orders. Typical, I muttered. Loyalty only matters when it benefits them. Emma was working with the cyber team, her hidden talents surprising everyone. 7 years of investigation had taught her skills beyond research. Got something, she announced. Partial list from Chen's files. 15 targets in California alone. All public spaces. They're planning coordinated attacks for noon today. I checked the clock. 4 hours. Can we warn them? Already dispatching units, David confirmed. But this is just one state. The full list could have hundreds of targets. I thought about Sarah's words. The truth was her anchor. Maybe it could be everyone's. We go public, I said suddenly. Full exposure, everything. The trials. Won't matter if thousands die. The order thrives on secrecy, so we destroy that. Press conference, live stream, whatever it takes. Tell the world about Prometheus. Make it impossible to execute. Judge Nakamura considered this. It would compromise prosecutions. Defense attorneys would claim prejudicial publicity. Better than mass murder. She nodded slowly. You're right. David set it up. We go live in 1 hour. I want to do it, I said. My face is already public. My family is the Order royalty. If I expose Prometheus, people will believe it. Brianne, you'll be painting the world's biggest target on your back. It's already there. At least this way I might save lives. While they prepared the broadcast, I called Marcus. He was in protective custody in New York, helping forensic accountants trace the Order's financial web. I saw the news about the hotel, he said immediately. Are you hurt? I'm okay, but Marcus, I'm about to do something dangerous. When are you not? Despite everything, I smiled. I'm going to expose their mass murder plot on live television. After that, the Order will want me dead more than ever. Then we disappear. After the trials, we vanish. New names, new lives, somewhere they can't find us. You'd do that, give up everything. Everything important is already gone. The life we knew, the families we trusted. All I have left is you. All I want left is you. I love you, I whispered. I love you too. Now go save the world. The broadcast setup was hasty, but effective. Secure satellite uplink location scrambled, major networks alerted. Within minutes of going live, millions would be watching. Emma helped me prepare, brushing glass fragments from my hair, finding clothes that didn't scream, "Escaped assassination attempt." You know this changes everything, she said. Once Prometheus is public, the Order will accelerate all their contingencies. Or they'll abort. Mass murder only works if no one expects it. Optimist. I have to be. The alternative is too horrible. Judge Nakamura handed me bullet points, but I pushed them aside. This needed to come from the heart, not a script. The cameras went live. My name is Brianne Morrison. I began staring directly into the lens. 4 days ago, my mother slapped me for choosing truth over family loyalty. Since then, I've exposed a century-old criminal organization called the Order, rescued victims from illegal imprisonment, and survived 3 assassination attempts. But none of that matters compared to what I'm about to tell you. I laid it out simply, clearly. The Order's existence, their penetration of government and justice systems, the kills already committed, and Prometheus. At noon today, coordinated attacks are planned across the country. Airports, train stations, hospitals, schools. The Order would rather murder thousands than face justice, but they can only succeed if we let them, if we stay silent, if we stay afraid. I held up a list of confirmed targets. These are the locations we've identified so far. If you're near any of these places, evacuate now. If you work security, increase vigilance. If you see something suspicious, report it immediately. The response was immediate. Social media exploded. News networks broke into regular programming. Stop Prometheus began trending worldwide. To members of the Order watching this, I continued, you have a choice. Participate in mass murder and be hunted forever as terrorists, or surrender now and face justice for your actual crimes. The organization you've served is dead. My family's arrest proves that. Don't die for a lost cause. And to those who've been silenced by the Order, threatened, imprisoned, or had loved ones killed, speak now. Come forward. Your truth matters. Together, we're stronger than their lies. I was about to conclude when Emma handed me a note. New intel from the captured operatives. My blood chilled as I read it. I've just learned the Order has a final protocol beyond Prometheus. If their leadership is captured, they have nuclear material positioned in 3 major cities. This is not a drill. This is not an exaggeration. The Order would rather trigger a nuclear incident than face justice. The control room erupted in chaos, but I kept talking. FBI and military units are mobilizing as I speak. If you have any information about the Order's operations, any knowledge of these nuclear threats, please come forward immediately. Lives depend on your courage. I looked directly into the camera, thinking of Sarah in her hospital bed, Rosa on the morgue table, my grandmother at the bottom of the stairs. My name is Brianne Morrison. My family built their empire on blood and silence. Today, I'm tearing it down with truth and voice. The order ends now. Not tomorrow, not after trials and appeals, now. Because we say so, because we refuse to be afraid anymore. The broadcast ended, but its impact had just begun. Within minutes, tips flooded law enforcement. Order members, seeing the writing on the wall, began surrendering. 3 Prometheus attacks were stopped before they started. But the nuclear threat remained. Judge Nakamura pulled me aside. What you just did was brave, but potentially catastrophic. If the order panics... They were already planning mass murder. At least now it's in the open. David rushed in. We've got a problem. Your mother is demanding to speak with you. Says she has information about the nuclear material, but will only tell you. It's a trap. Maybe, but our nuclear response teams need any intel they can get. 3 devices, 3 cities, and we have no idea where. I thought about my mother's cold eyes, her casual cruelty, but also about the millions of innocents who'd die if we didn't find those devices. Set it up, I decided. But I talked to her from here, video link only. Brianne, she's still my mother. Maybe somewhere in that frozen heart is a shred of humanity. Maybe the thought of nuclear winter will thaw it. Probably not, but I had to try. The order had escalated beyond crime into insanity. Someone had to pull them back from the edge, even if that someone was the daughter who destroyed them. The video link connected, and my mother appeared on screen. Orange jumpsuit, no makeup, gray showing at her roots. Stripped of power and polish, Charlotte Morrison looked almost human. Brianne, she said, voice steady, despite her circumstances, I see you've been busy. Quite the performance on national television. Where are the nuclear devices, mother? Straight to business. No concern for your family's welfare. You stopped being my family when you murdered Grandma. Her composure cracked slightly. That was necessary. She would have destroyed everything we'd built. Like I'm destroying it now. Yes, exactly like that. She leaned forward. Do you understand what you've done? The order maintained stability for a century. Yes, through unsavory means, but the alternative was chaos. Now you'll see what chaos really looks like. The location's mother, please. First I want something, Marcus Chen. My blood chilled. What about him? The order knows he's been tracing our finances. He's found accounts we need protected. Call him off and I'll give you 1 location. 1, there are 3 devices. 1 location per concession, that's the deal. You're negotiating with millions of lives. I'm negotiating with the only currency I have left. Her smile was arctic. You took everything else. Judge Nakamura muted our end. We could trace the call Marcus is on, see what accounts he's investigating. Do it. I agreed then, unmuted. I need proof you actually know the locations. Chicago Federal Plaza. Device is in the underground parking structure maintenance level, designed to look like HVAC equipment, armed by biometric scan from Controller Jameson. You have 6 hours before automatic detonation. David was already relaying the information. Within minutes, confirmation came back. Device located bomb squad en route. Now, my mother continued, call Marcus. Tell him to stop. I dialed Marcus, praying he'd understand. Hey, I need you to stop the financial investigation. What, Brianne? I've almost cracked their main accounts. Please, just stop. Trust me. A pause. He knew me well enough to hear the subtext. Okay, stopping now. Whatever you need. My mother smiled. Good girl. Location 2 Los Angeles. Subway system. Red line tunnel between Pershing Square and Westlake. Disguised as track maintenance equipment. Controller Patricia Morse. 4 hours to detonation. Again, David's team confirmed and mobilized. 2 down, 1 to go. The 3rd location, I demanded. That requires something more substantial. I want immunity. Absolutely not, Judge Nakamura interjected. You're facing murder charges. Then New York burns, my mother said simply. The 3rd device is in the financial district. When it detonates, the economic fallout will destroy more lives than the blast itself. Your choice. I stared at the woman who'd raised me, searching for any trace of the mother who'd once sung lullabies and kissed scraped knees. But that woman had probably never existed, just another Morrison performance. Counter offer, I said. Life in prison instead of death penalty. Death penalty is unlikely anyway. Try again. Minimum security facility, possibility of parole after 30 years. She considered this. 20 years. You murdered your own mother and saved countless others from her meddling. The order's methods were harsh but effective. Crime rates in our territories were the lowest in the nation. Because you disappeared anyone who opposed you. We maintained order, hence the name, she sighed. 25 years minimum security, and I'll give you the third location. Judge Nakamura nodded reluctantly. We needed that location. Deal, I said. New York. Wall Street Station. Device is integrated into the support structure north end of the platform. Controller, Michael Harrison. 2 hours to detonation. Happy now. The teams confirmed the third location. 3 devices found 3 cities saved. But the victory felt hollow looking at my mother's satisfied expression. You know what the saddest part is, I asked. You're brilliant. You could have been a force for real justice. Instead, you chose corruption. I chose power. In this world, that's the only real justice. She studied me through the screen. You'll learn that eventually, when the order's remnants come for you, when you're hiding under assumed names, jumping at shadows. You'll understand that power is the only true safety. Maybe, but I'll be able to sleep at night. Will you? When the next Rosa dies because you couldn't protect her? When the next Sarah is taken because the order survives in shadow? You've won this battle, Brianne, but the war never ends. The connection terminated, leaving me staring at a blank screen. Around me, the control room celebrated. 3 nuclear threats neutralized, hundreds of order members arrested, thousands of lives saved. But my mother's words echoed. The war never ends. Brianne, Emma touched my shoulder. You did it. You saved 3 cities. She gave up the locations too easily, I realized. She wanted me to stop Marcus's investigation. Why? I called him back. What exactly did you find before I told you to stop? Ghost accounts, billions hidden in cryptocurrency, offshore holdings, shell companies. But there was something else. Insurance policies. What kind of insurance? Life insurance on order members, all payable to a single beneficiary, a company called Phoenix Trust. Phoenix, rising from ashes, like Prometheus brought fire. Oh God, I breathed. The nuclear devices were never meant to detonate. They were leverage. What do you mean? The order is cleaning house. Anyone who might testify, anyone who might break, they're going to be eliminated. The insurance payouts will fund Order 2.0. That's insane. They'd kill their own people. Tyler tried to kill me. My mother killed her own mother. These people have no loyalty except to power. Judge Nakamura was already mobilizing protection for arrested order members, but we all knew it might be too late. The order had planned for this contingency, and we were playing catch-up. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. Hello, sis. Tyler, how are you calling? You're in custody. Amazing what a sympathetic nurse can smuggle in. He sounded drugged but coherent. Watched your little TV performance. Very dramatic. Mom taught you well. What do you want? To offer you a deal. The real one. Not Mom's pathetic attempt at manipulation. I'm listening. The order isn't what you think. It's not a criminal organization. It's a shadow government. Has been since the Great Depression. Every president, every major policy, every war and peace, we've had a hand in it. You're lying. MI check the Phoenix Trust Board of Directors. You'll find cabinet members, joint chiefs, captains of industry. The people you're exposing, their middle management. The real power is untouchable. My hands shook as Emma pulled up the Phoenix Trust records. The names made my blood run cold. He wasn't lying. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm dead either way. The order doesn't tolerate failure, and I failed to stop you. But you're my sister. Misguided, naive, but still my sister. So here's my gift. Get out. Take your boyfriend and run. Leave the country tonight, before they activate Protocol 7. What's Protocol 7? The frame job to end all frame jobs. They're going to pin a terrorist attack on you, make you the villain of your own story. The Morrison daughter who went mad, betrayed her country, killed innocents. By tomorrow, you'll be America's most wanted. That's ridiculous. I just exposed them on national television. And how hard would it be to spin that as the ravings of a mentally unstable woman from a crime family, especially when they have video of you at the locations where devices are found, when they have your fingerprints on the components? That's impossible. I was never near those devices. Weren't you? Think about every surface you've touched in the last week, every document you handled. The order collects everything. They've been building this frame since you turned against us. The room around me spun. Could they really do it? Could they turn me from hero to terrorist? Tyler, if you're telling the truth, help us stop it. Can't stop the tide, little sister. Can only swim or drown. He coughed a wet sound. Looks like my nurse gave me too much medication. Tragic accident. Tell Mom I kept the family tradition of betrayal alive. Tyler. The line went dead. On the screens, alerts flashed. Tyler Morrison, dead in custody. Apparent overdose. The nurse who'd been treating him had vanished. Pull up news feeds, I ordered. Already the narrative was shifting. Questions arise about Morrison daughter's mental state. Was Brianne Morrison complicit in family crimes? Anonymous sources suggest deeper involvement. They're turning it around, Emma breathed, making you the story instead of the order. We need to move, David decided. If Tyler was right about Protocol 7, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing us in red light. On the screens, news broke of a bombing at a federal courthouse, the one where I'd testified yesterday. 17 dead. Security footage showed a figure that could from a distance be me. It's starting, Judge Nakamura said grimly. The frame. My phone rang. Marcus. Brianne, get out. They've issued a warrant for your arrest. They're saying you planted those nuclear devices as part of a conspiracy with foreign terrorists, that your testimony was all to throw suspicion off yourself. That's insane. Logic doesn't matter anymore. Perception is reality. They have evidence, planted obviously but convincing. You need to run. I can't run. That makes me look guilty. Staying makes you dead. Please, Brianne. We'll fight this, but not if you're killed resisting arrest. He was right. The order had played their final card brilliantly. Discredit me, frame me, eliminate me. Clean and surgical. Where do I go? I have a contact, journalist in Canada who's been investigating the order independently. She can hide you while we prove your innocence. What about Emma, Sarah, everyone who helped me? They're being discredited too, but you're the main target. Without you, the others might be safe. Judge Nakamura made the hardest decision of her career. Go. We'll maintain your innocence, but if you're arrested now, you'll never make it to trial. You're letting me run. I'm saving your life. The real fight is proving the order exists at a level above those we've arrested. That takes time you won't have in custody. Emma hugged me fiercely. I'll keep fighting from here. Expose their lies. They'll come after you, too. Let them try. I've been hiding for 7 years. I'm done with shadows. David led me through underground tunnels to a service exit where a plain sedan waited. Canadian border is 6 hours. Don't stop. Don't use credit cards. Don't contact anyone until you're across. This is insane. Yesterday, I was a hero. Today, I'm a terrorist. Today, you're alive. Tomorrow, we'll work on hero again. As I drove into the desert night, every radio station carried the same story. Brianne Morrison, disturbed daughter of corrupt family mastermind behind nuclear plot, manhunt underway, armed and dangerous. The order had turned truth into lies with frightening efficiency. They'd made me the villain of my own story, but they'd made one mistake. They'd left me alive, and as long as I drew breath, I'd fight to expose them. Every level, every lie, every leader. The war never ends, my mother had said. She was right about that at least, but she was wrong about power being the only safety. Truth was stronger. It just took longer to win. 6 months in exile taught me that truth without power is just noise. I sat in a cramped Vancouver apartment surrounded by evidence that no one wanted to believe. The journalist who'd promised shelter Catherine Walsh had been murdered 2 weeks after I arrived. Robbery gone wrong, the police said, ignoring the fact that nothing was stolen except her order research. Emma sent coded messages when she could. The arrests had continued, over 300 order members now in custody, but the narrative had shifted. I was the face of homegrown terrorism, my family portrayed as victims of my manipulation. Every piece of evidence I'd provided was reframed as part of my elaborate conspiracy. Sarah tried to testify on my behalf, but her 5 years of psychiatric treatment made her easy to discredit. Delusional woman supports delusional friend, the headlines read. Marcus had been arrested on fabricated charges, his communications cut off. The FBI agents who'd helped me were reassigned or mysteriously retired. But I kept working. Catherine's death had given me access to her network of international journalists investigating the order's reach. From my dingy apartment, I coordinated with reporters in 12 countries, piecing together a web that spanned continents. Rosa's nephew, Juan, found me through encrypted channels. He'd fled after Rosa's death, but carried something precious: recordings Rosa had made over 20 years of service, the Morrison family's crimes captured in their own voices. She knew this day would come, Juan said, handing over dozens of memory cards. Said someone in the family would eventually grow a conscience. She just didn't expect it to cost so much. The recordings were devastating. My father ordering hits, my mother discussing which judges to buy, Tyler laughing about witnesses who'd committed suicide. But most damning was a conversation from 5 years ago, just before Sarah disappeared. The Phoenix Protocol, my father's voice said clearly. If we're ever exposed at scale, we burn the current operation and rebuild. Let them arrest the visible members. The real power structure remains untouched. And if someone from inside turns, that was my mother, then they become the story. Manufacture evidence, create distractions, make them the villain. The public loves a fallen hero narrative. What about Brianne? She's showing concerning independence. Brianne's controllable, too much to lose, too soft to really fight. Wrong on both counts, Dad. I compiled everything into a massive encrypted file. Financial records, recordings, testimonies from order victims across decades. But I needed more than evidence. I needed someone with power to act on it. That's when Congressman Daniel Park reached out. Miss Morrison, his encrypted message read, I've been investigating the order independently for 10 years. They killed my sister when she tried to expose judicial corruption in Oregon. I believe you're innocent, and I have committee subpoena power. But I need your evidence to act. It could be a trap. After 6 months of isolation, paranoia was my constant companion. But what choice did I have? Hide forever while the order rebuilt in shadow. We arranged a meeting in Seattle, neutral ground with multiple escape routes. I arrived 3 hours early, watching for surveillance. The coffee shop was public, crowded, safer than anywhere isolated. Congressman Park looked exactly like his photos, mid-50s Korean-American eyes that had seen too much. He came alone, hands visible, no security detail. You're braver than I expected, he said, sitting across from me, or more desperate. Both. Can you prove you're not order? He smiled sadly and showed me a photo. A young woman, bright smile, judicial robes. My sister Jennifer died in a car accident 2 weeks after she refused to fix a case. The order offered me membership instead. Join or join her. You said no. I said yes, then spent 10 years documenting everything from inside. I'm on the Phoenix Trust Board, Miss Morrison. I know where the bodies are buried because I helped dig some graves. My hand moved to the knife in my jacket. You're confessing to murder. I'm confessing to cowardice. I gathered intelligence instead of acting. Told myself I was waiting for the right moment. Then you came along and did what I couldn't, brought them into the light, and destroyed my life in the process. Yes, but also saved millions. The nuclear plot was real. If you hadn't exposed it, 3 cities would be glass craters. He pulled out a tablet. I can clear your name, but I need your evidence to do it. Congressional hearing, nationally televised under oath protection. They'll kill me the moment I surface. Not if we're smart. I've arranged immunity deals for 17 order members willing to flip. Your mother was right about one thing power protects, but she was wrong about truth being powerless. Truth plus political authority equals justice. I studied him looking for deception, finding only exhaustion and determination. What's your price? No price, just partnership. Your evidence, my platform. Together, we can finish what you started. The real order leadership, the Phoenix Trust Board. Especially them. Did you know the current Secretary of Defense is on that board? The Federal Reserve Chair 3 Supreme Court Justices. The scope made me dizzy. How do we fight that? Carefully, strategically, and with the understanding that some victories require sacrifice. I thought about Catherine dead for sheltering me, Rosa killed for helping me, Sarah 5 years stolen, my grandmother murdered for threatening exposure. I'm tired of sacrifice, tired of good people dying while evil thrives. Then let's change the equation, make them sacrifice for once. Over the next 3 hours, I transferred everything to his secured servers. Terabytes of evidence, decades of crimes, names, dates, methods, the complete anatomy of America's shadow government. This is comprehensive, Park said, scrolling through files. With this, I can convene hearings that will make Watergate look like jaywalking. When? 2 weeks. I need time to coordinate with clean committee members, arrange security, prepare legal frameworks. Can you stay hidden that long? I've lasted 6 months. Good, because once we go public, there's no stopping. The order will throw everything at us. Character assassination, actual assassination, every dirty trick they know. Let them come. I've lost everything already. Not everything. You still have truth, and soon you'll have vindication. As we prepared to leave, my burner phone rang. Only 3 people had the number and 2 were compromised. I answered cautiously. Brianne. Sarah's voice, but different. Clearer. Stronger. I'm out. Really out. The drugs are finally gone and I remember everything. Every document, every name, every crime I was investigating. I want to testify. Publicly. Let them try to call me crazy now. Sarah, it's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. Silence is dangerous. Speaking is dangerous. But only one of those helps people like us. I choose speaking. Congressman Park overheard. Bring her in. 2 witnesses are harder to discredit than 1. 3, Emma's voice came through. I've been building my own case. 7 years of investigation. Remember time to use it. 4, said a new voice. Marcus. They released me yesterday. Lack of evidence. Seems their frame job had holes when examined closely. I've got financial forensics that will burn the order's monetary structure to ash. 5, Juan added. Rosa deserves justice. Her recordings deserve to be heard. I looked at Congressman Park. Seems we're building an army. Good, because the order has one too, but theirs is built on fear and greed. Ours is built on truth and justice. History shows which typically wins. History also shows the cost. Everything worth doing costs. The question is whether we're willing to pay. I thought about my grandmother dying to protect me from the order. Rosa recording evidence for 20 years knowing it might kill her. Sarah surviving 5 years of chemical torture rather than surrender her truth. Catherine murdered for sheltering a fugitive she believed innocent. The bill was already so high. How could I not see it through? 2 weeks, I agreed. Then we end this. Or it ends us, Park said honestly. But either way, the truth comes out. As I left the coffee shop, Seattle's rain washing the streets clean, I felt something I hadn't in 6 months. Hope. Not for personal redemption, that ship had sailed when the order painted me as a terrorist, but hope that their century of shadow rule might finally end. My phone buzzed with a message from my father, somehow sent from federal prison. You can't win. The order is eternal. Submit now and we might let Marcus live. I deleted it without responding. They still didn't understand. This wasn't about winning anymore. It wasn't about survival or personal victory. It was about the truth. And the truth, as Sarah had learned in her chemical prison, was its own form of power. Not the power to control or destroy, but the power to illuminate, to show things as they truly were. In 2 weeks, America would see its shadow government exposed, would see how deep the corruption ran, would have to choose between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truths. I knew which most would choose. People always preferred pleasant deceptions to harsh realities. But some would choose truth. Some always did. And sometimes some was enough to start a revolution. The rain intensified and I disappeared into the crowd. Another face in the city, another person with secrets. But unlike the Order's secrets, mine were about to be shouted from the rooftops. Let them come for me. Let them try their assassination attempts and character attacks. I had survived 6 months as America's most wanted. I could survive 2 more weeks. And then win or lose, live or die, the truth would be free. That had to be enough, because it was all I had left to give. The congressional hearing room was packed beyond capacity. C-SPAN's cameras captured every angle as Congressman Park gavelled the session to order. 2 weeks of preparation had led to this moment. Sarah sat to my left, Marcus to my right. Emma and Juan waited in the witness queue. We were David's 5 stones against Goliath if David had been framed as a terrorist first. This hearing will examine evidence of systematic corruption within American institutions. Park began. Evidence that has been dismissed, discredited, and buried. Today, the truth gets its day. The order hadn't been idle. Protesters outside called me a traitor. Death threats flooded in hourly. 3 witnesses had already recanted, 2 others had disappeared. But we pressed on. I was sworn in. First, the weight of the oath heavy on my tongue. Every network carried it live. The girl who'd exposed the order, or the terrorist who'd manufactured a conspiracy, depending on which narrative you believed. State your name for the record. Brianne Morrison, daughter of convicted criminals Charlotte and Robert Morrison, sister to deceased Tyler Morrison, whistleblower, not terrorist. Miss Morrison, you've been accused of planting nuclear devices in 3 cities. How do you respond? I respond with facts. I opened my folder, hand steady despite everything. At the time those devices were planted, I was in FBI custody in Connecticut, verified by multiple agents. The surveillance footage supposedly showing me at bomb sites deepfakes. Here's the forensic analysis proving it. I laid out evidence methodically. Every order crime, every cover-up, every murdered witness. Rosa's recordings played through the speakers, my family's voices discussing murder like dinner plans. Sarah testified about her imprisonment, showing medical records of the drugs used to silence her. Marcus revealed the order's financial web, trillions hidden in shadow accounts. But it was Emma who delivered the killing blow. I have here, she said, holding up a drive, 7 years of investigation into the order, including recordings from their highest levels, the Phoenix Trust Board, the real power. Objection, a voice from the gallery. I turned to see Secretary of Defense Harold Morrison, my uncle, standing in full uniform. This hearing has no authority to examine classified materials. With respect, Mr. Secretary, Park replied, conspiracy and murder aren't classified, they're criminal. I invoke national security. These proceedings must cease immediately. On what grounds? The grounds that the order has operated with governmental approval for 90 years. We are not criminals. We are a necessary evil in a chaotic world. The admission stunned the room silent. Even Park seemed shocked. My uncle had just confirmed everything we'd claimed. Did you just admit to the order's existence? Park asked. Harold realized his mistake but doubled down. I admit to serving my country through unconventional means. Sometimes democracy needs guidance. Sometimes the people need protection from their own worst impulses. Protection through murder. Through stability, the order prevented 3 world wars, managed economic collapses, contained threats the public never knew existed. Yes, our methods were harsh, but the alternative was chaos. Your methods included imprisoning journalists, killing witnesses, and planning mass murder. Regrettable necessities. Brianne's naive exposure has already cost lives. Crime rates are soaring without our influence. International relations are deteriorating. She broke the machine that kept America safe. I stood, unable to contain myself. Safe, you murdered my grandmother, drugged my best friend, killed Rosa for helping me. Your grandmother threatened to expose operations that saved millions. Your friend was investigating matters beyond her understanding. The housekeeper was collateral damage. His voice was ice. This is what Brianne doesn't understand. Leadership requires terrible choices. The order made them so ordinary citizens didn't have to. That's not leadership, I shot back. That's tyranny. Is it every president since Roosevelt knew about us? Most were members. We shaped the American century. Without us, you'd be speaking German or Russian or not speaking at all because nuclear war consumed the world. Park gavelled for order. Secretary Morrison, are you confessing to conspiracy? I'm confessing to patriotism, and I'm here to make an offer. He looked directly at me. End this hearing, recant your testimony, accept that the order in some form is necessary. Do this, and all charges against you disappear. You become a hero who helped reform a flawed but essential institution. Never. Then you'll die a terrorist, because that's what the evidence will show. That's what history will record. The Morrison girl who went mad and tried to destroy America. The evidence is fake. Evidence is what power says it is. We have judges, we have media, we have the apparatus of truth itself. You have 5 witnesses and a congressional hearing. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. I pulled out my phone knowing the cameras were watching. Actually, I said I have one more thing, a call to make. Park looked confused. This wasn't in the script, but I'd realized something listening to Harold's arrogant certainty. The order believed they controlled information, that they could shape any narrative. But they'd forgotten about the one thing they couldn't control. I dialed a number I'd memorized but never used. It rang twice before connecting. WikiLeaks secure line authentication. Authentication code November Romeo 77. I have files regarding the order conspiracy, full documentation, ready for immediate release. Harold's face went white. You didn't. I did. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence we've collected, uploaded to servers in 12 countries. Dead man's switch activated. If anything happens to any of us, it all goes public. Unfiltered, unspun, raw truth for the world to judge. That's treason. Those files contain national security secrets. Then you shouldn't have mixed them with murder conspiracies. The room erupted. Harold was screaming about arrest warrants. Park was gaveling frantically, but I stayed calm, phone still connected. The American people deserve truth, I continued. Not your managed version, not your necessary evils. Pure, unfiltered truth. So here's my offer, Uncle. The order disbands completely. Every member resigns from positions of power, full confessions, real trials, real justice. Or I give the authentication code and let the world see everything. You'll destabilize global politics, collapse economies, start wars. Maybe. Or maybe people are stronger than you think. Maybe they can handle truth better than your lies. This is insane. Park, stop her. But Park was smiling. She's not under my authority, Mr. Secretary. She's a private citizen exercising her First Amendment rights. Harold turned to the cameras. She's bluffing. Has to be. No one would risk that level of chaos. I held up the phone. Try me. The girl you thought was too soft to fight. She died when you killed Rosa. What's left is someone with nothing to lose and truth to gain. Your move. The silence stretched. On screens around the room, news channels were going wild. Release. The files trending globally, the order's century of control balanced on a knife's edge. Finally, Harold spoke. You're just like your grandmother. Righteous, stubborn, willing to burn everything for principle. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. She died for those principles. And you killed her for them. Which one of us looks better in history's light? He stared at me, this man who'd shaped world events, who'd ordered deaths and toppled governments. Then his shoulders sagged. What guarantee do we have? The same guarantee Rosa had, Sarah had, my grandmother had, none. But at least you'll face justice in courtrooms, not stairwells. The order won't accept this. The Phoenix Trust Board has resources you can't imagine. Then they'd better imagine prison, because that's where they're heading. Harold looked around the room, at cameras recording everything, at Sarah, survivor of their cruelty, at Marcus, whose only crime was loving me, at Emma and Juan, carrying their dead's legacy. I need to make a call, he said finally. No deals, no negotiations, surrender or exposure, choose. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. The room held its breath as he dialed. This is Morrison. Authentication Omega 7. A pause. Initiate dissolution protocol. Yes, you heard correctly. Complete dissolution. The game is over. He hung up and looked at me with something almost like respect. You've won, niece. God help us all, but you've won. I haven't won anything. Truth won. Justice won. The people you silenced for 90 years won. Within minutes, phones across the room began ringing, order members resigning, confessions beginning, a century of shadow governance collapsing in real time. But I kept my phone ready, trust but verify, as Reagan said about enemies. The order might be surrendering, but I'd keep that dead man's switch armed until every last member faced justice. Miss Morrison, Park said formally, do you have anything else to add to your testimony? I looked at the cameras, at America watching, at the world witnessing truth triumph over power. Yes. To everyone in the order silenced, imprisoned, or killed, you are vindicated. Your truth mattered. It just took longer to be heard. To those who stayed silent from fear, I understand. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but action despite it. And to the order itself, you were wrong. People can handle truth. Democracy doesn't need shadow masters, it needs light. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. Around me, history shifted. The old order literally was dying. What would replace it was uncertain. But it would be built on truth rather than lies, transparency rather than shadows. My phone buzzed. A message from the WikiLeaks handler ready to receive authentication code. I typed back, stand by, verification in progress. Because I'd learned from the order themselves, power corrupts. Even the power of truth. The files would remain my insurance until justice was truly served. A sword of Damocles over those who thought they could rebuild in shadow. Sarah took my hand. Marcus took the other. We sat there, three people who'd lost everything to gain truth, watching an empire fall. It wasn't victory. Too many were dead for that. But it was justice. And sometimes that's the best you can hope for in a world built on lies. The world exploded. Within hours of Harold Morrison's confession, 24-hour news cycles went into overdrive. Every network, every platform, every voice had an opinion on the order's exposure and dissolution. But controlling the narrative proved impossible when competing stories emerged by the minute. I watched from a secure location as order members turned themselves in across the country. Federal judges admitting to fixed cases. Senators confessing to murdered opponents, business leaders revealing market manipulations that had destroyed competitors and enriched themselves. This is unprecedented, the CNN anchor said, barely containing excitement. We're witnessing the complete collapse of a shadow government that has allegedly operated since the Great Depression. Brianne Morrison, once labeled a terrorist, is now being hailed as the whistleblower of the century. But not everyone was celebrating. Fox News ran a different angle. Order collapse causes chaos, crime rates soar as shadow protection disappears. They weren't entirely wrong. In cities where the order had maintained iron control through corrupt police commissioners and judges, criminal elements were testing new boundaries. 3 major banks reported cyber attacks. The stock market plunged 800 points. International allies expressed concern about America's stability. You've created a power vacuum, Harold said during a televised interview from federal custody. The order was evil, yes, but we were organized evil. What replaces us will be chaotic evil. Mark my words. Sarah threw a pillow at the screen. Organized evil, like that's something to be proud of. We were holed up in a federal witness protection facility waiting for the trials to begin. Marcus worked with forensic accountants via secured connections. Emma coordinated with journalists worldwide. Juan translated Rosa's recordings for international investigators. And I fielded interview requests I couldn't accept while under protection. But the media storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest in my phone. The WikiLeaks connection remained open, my finger hovering over the full release, because despite the surrenders, something felt wrong. "They're too calm," Emma observed, studying footage of order members being arrested. "A century-old organization doesn't just roll over like this." She was right. Charlotte Morrison, my mother, gave jailhouse interviews with suspicious serenity. Other high-ranking members showed similar composure, like they knew something we didn't. The answer came at 3 a.m. when every major news outlet received identical packages. "Breaking news," the anchors announced simultaneously. "We've received what appears to be documentation from inside the order, suggesting Brianne Morrison was not a whistleblower but a high-ranking member executing a power play." I watched in horror as forged documents flooded the airways. Fake emails between me and order leadership. Doctored photos at meetings I'd never attended. Financial records showing payments to my accounts that never existed. "It's their final play," Marcus said, frantically working to trace the source. "Mutually assured destruction. If they're going down, they're taking you with them." The narrative shift was swift and brutal. Within hours, I went from hero to potential mastermind. Social media exploded with theories. Had I exposed the order to eliminate competition? Was this all an internal power struggle? Were the nuclear devices real or part of my plan? "Brianne Morrison whistleblower or puppet master," read the Washington Post headline, even as Amanda Chen fought her editors to maintain my innocence. My phone rang. Congressman Park. "They're calling for new hearings," he said grimly, "to investigate you specifically. I'm fighting it, but the evidence looks damning to those who don't know better." It's all fake. We know that. But proving it takes time. Meanwhile, public opinion is turning. Some are even calling for the order's restoration, saying at least they maintain stability. I felt the walls closing in. The order might be dying, but they were determined to take me with them. Classic scorched earth tactics. "Release the files," Emma urged. "Everything, let the raw truth speak." "That could cause global instability," Marcus warned. "Those files contain state secrets beyond the order, military operations, intelligence assets, things that could get innocent people killed." I stared at my phone, the weight of the decision crushing. Release everything and potentially cause chaos that could cost lives, or stay silent and let the order's dying gasps destroy my credibility. That's when Sarah, quiet Sarah, who'd survived 5 years of hell, spoke up. "Call a press conference." "I can't. Witness protection protocols." "Break them. The order is breaking rules. Match them." Her eyes blazed with a fire that had sustained her through chemical imprisonment. "You've been playing defense since this started. Time to go on offense." "How?" "Tell the truth. Not through documents or recordings or evidence that can be questioned. Through you, your story, raw, unfiltered human. Make them see the woman behind the whistleblower." "They'll say, they'll tear me apart." "They're already doing that. At least this way you fight back." I looked at my friends, my chosen family, forged in crucible of the order's corruption. Each had sacrificed everything for truth. Could I do less? "Set it up," I told Park. "Full press conference, live, no delays that allow editing." "The marshals will never approve." "Then don't ask permission. I'll take responsibility." 24 hours later, I stood before a room packed with international media. No podium, no prepared statements, just me and hundreds of cameras broadcasting to billions. "My name is Brianne Morrison," I began. 4 weeks ago, my mother slapped me for choosing journalism over joining the family corruption business. Since then, I've been called hero and terrorist, whistleblower and mastermind. Today, I'll tell you exactly what I am: a daughter who discovered her family were monsters and chose strangers' lives over blood loyalty. For 2 hours I spoke. No notes, No rehearsal, just truth. I told them about Rosa sneaking me cookies while my parents planned murders, about Sarah's excitement over her investigation before she vanished, about finding my grandmother's note in a book of mysteries, her last message of love and courage. I cried when describing Rosa's still hand slipping from under the morgue sheet, laughed bitterly recounting Tyler's applause at my humiliation, showed the scar where his gun had grazed me during our warehouse fight. The order wants you to believe I'm the mastermind, I said, that this is all some elaborate plot for power. But look at me. Really look. Do I look like someone who gained from this? I lost my family, my home, my identity. I'm hunted, hated, alone, except for fellow survivors. What mastermind plans their own destruction? I held up my phone showing the WikiLeaks connection still active. These files contain everything, every order crime, every government secret they touched, every life they destroyed. I could release them now and prove my innocence beyond doubt. But doing so might cost innocent lives. Intelligence assets could be exposed, military operations compromised, so I'm making a different choice. I looked directly into the cameras, speaking to America, to the world, to history. I'm giving the order one last chance. Every member watching this, you have 72 hours, full confession, real evidence, complete cooperation. Anyone who doesn't comply, who continues these attacks on my credibility, who tries to rebuild in shadow, I release everything. Not just order crimes, but every secret you've touched. Your choice: controlled demolition or total annihilation. The room erupted with questions, but I wasn't finished. To the American people, I say this. The order told you comfortable lies for 90 years. I'm offering uncomfortable truths. They managed your reality like parents hiding harsh facts from children. I'm treating you like adults who can handle difficult knowledge. You get to choose which you prefer, but know this. The order thrived on your passive acceptance, your willingness to let others make hard choices. That ends now. Democracy requires active participation, not shadow masters pulling strings. Miss Morrison, a reporter shouted, "What about the evidence that you were involved with the order? Fabricated by desperate people facing life sentences. But don't take my word. Investigate. Question. Verify. That's what free people do. That's what the order feared most citizens who think for themselves. How do we know you won't become like them? Power corrupts, as you've shown. You don't know, that's why I'm not asking for power. After the trials, after justice is served, I'm disappearing. No book deals, no political career, no leveraging this for gain. I'll vanish like the order's victims except by choice. My job was to expose them. Your job is to ensure nothing like them rises again. What if they call your bluff? What if they continue attacking your credibility? I smiled grimly. Then tomorrow's headlines will make today's look like gossip columns. The order forgot that mutually assured destruction only works when both sides have something to lose. They took everything from me already. I'm playing with house money now. The press conference ended in chaos, but the message was delivered. Within hours, order members began releasing real evidence of their crimes, terrified of what those files contained. The attacks on my credibility slowed, then stopped. My 72-hour ultimatum had worked, but the media storm raged on. Every channel debated whether I was hero or villain, savior or destroyer. Online polls showed America split 50-50. Half wanted me awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Half wanted me arrested for treason. "You did it," Sarah said that night watching confessions pour in. "You beat them at their own game." Did I look at the coverage? Half the country thinks I'm worse than the order. Truth is messy, Marcus said. It doesn't come in neat packages with clear heroes and villains. You showed them reality, and reality is complicated. The order offered simple lies, Emma added. You're offering complex truths. Of course people are struggling. Juan Coyet Juan, who'd lost his aunt to this fight, spoke last. Rosa used to say, La verdad no teme la luz. Truth doesn't fear the light. You brought light, Miss Brianne. What people do with it is their choice. As the 72 hours ticked down, more order members cracked. The Phoenix Trust Board, facing the threat of total exposure, began turning on each other. The Secretary of Defense resigned in disgrace. Federal judges recused themselves from cases going back decades. The entire corrupt structure collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. But I kept my finger on that trigger, ready to release everything if needed. Because the order had taught me one valuable lesson: trust but verify. Always verify. The media storm would rage for years. Books would be written, movies made, conspiracy theories spawned. But in that moment, watching truth slowly triumph over lies, I felt something I hadn't since my mother's slap. Peace. Not happiness, too much loss for that. Not satisfaction, the cost too high, but peace. The peace of someone who'd faced impossible choices and chosen truth over comfort, strangers over family, justice over safety. The order was dying. What would replace it remained uncertain, but it would be built in daylight, not shadow, subject to scrutiny, not secrecy, accountable to people, not power. That had to be enough, because it was all I had to give. The storm outside raged on, but inside our safe house, 5 survivors of the order's cruelty sat together, wounded but not broken, scared but not silenced, ready for whatever came next. Truth had won this round, but as the order itself proved, the victories require vigilance. The real work was just beginning. The trials began 6 months later in a federal courthouse transformed into a fortress. Snipers on rooftops, bomb-sniffing dogs in corridors, metal detectors at every turn. The order might be dying, but a wounded animal remained dangerous until its last breath. I sat in the witness gallery, no longer testifying but watching justice unfold. 300 defendants, 50 separate trials, thousands of charges ranging from conspiracy to murder, the largest criminal proceeding in American history. Charlotte Morrison's trial drew the most attention. My mother sat rigid in designer clothes, even facing life in prison. She maintained appearances. Her defense was predictable, following orders, believing she served a greater good, protecting America from chaos. But when prosecutors played Rosa's recordings, her cold discussions of murder destroyed any sympathy. The defendant shows no remorse, the prosecutor stated during closing arguments. She speaks of victims like chess pieces removed from a board. This is not misguided patriotism. This is sociopathy dressed in judicial robes. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Sarah and I waited together, hands clasped, understanding that no verdict could restore what we'd lost. When guilty on all counts rang through the courtroom, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness where family love should have existed. My father's trial revealed the order's financial web in excruciating detail. Marcus testified for 3 days, walking jury members through labyrinthine money trails. Billions, stolen economies, manipulated competitors, destroyed through systemic corruption. Robert Morrison had helped build an empire of theft disguised as public service. I did what was necessary, he declared during his allocution. The order created prosperity for millions. By stealing from billions, the judge countered, prosperity built on crime is not prosperity, it's organized theft. Life without parole. My father would die in prison, his political legacy reduced to a cautionary tale about power's corruption. Other trials revealed the order's scope. Journalists imprisoned for investigating corruption. Politicians assassinated for opposing order candidates. Witnesses murdered before testifying. Each revelation deepened public horror at how thoroughly their democracy had been subverted. But it was the Phoenix Trust Board trials that exposed the highest levels. Supreme Court justices who'd shaped law to protect order operations. Military leaders who'd started wars to boost order defense contractors. Intelligence officials who'd surveilled citizens threatening order interests. The corruption reached into every institution Americans trusted. "How do we recover from this?" asked CNN's lead anchor during coverage. How does a democracy function when citizens can't trust any institution? The answer came slowly, painfully through months of testimony and revelation. New leaders emerged untainted by order connections. Reforms passed Congress with overwhelming support. Transparency requirements, corruption oversight, citizen panels reviewing judicial decisions. The machinery of democracy creaked and groaned but adapted. Yet victory carried unexpected costs. Crime syndicates, no longer controlled by order manipulation, went to war over territory. Without corrupt judges managing convictions, the justice system backed up catastrophically. International relations suffered as allied nations discovered how the order had manipulated global politics. "You broke the machine," Harold Morrison said during his sentencing. "I hope you're prepared for what replaces it." "Chaos is preferable to controlled evil," I responded from the gallery. "At least chaos offers the possibility of genuine progress." He laughed bitterly, spoken like someone who's never lived through true chaos. "You will." The threats weren't idle. 3 witnesses were murdered before testifying. Car accidents, robberies gone wrong, suicides that forensics suggested were staged. The order's death throes claimed victims, even as its leaders faced justice. Sarah received constant death threats requiring round-the-clock protection. Marcus discovered contracts on both our lives, million-dollar bounties posted on dark websites. Emma's safe house was bombed, though she escaped minutes before explosion. Juan vanished entirely one night, leaving only a note, "Safer for everyone if I disappear." But we pressed on, testifying in trial after trial, watching order members fall like dominoes. Each conviction chipped away at their power structure. Each revelation strengthened public resolve to prevent such corruption's return. The turning point came during Elizabeth Morrison's trial, my aunt who'd run the facility imprisoning Sarah. "I was following family tradition," she testified, trying to shift blame. "Charlotte insisted family loyalty superseded law." "Did family loyalty supersede humanity?" the prosecutor asked. "When you drugged Sarah Chen into near catatonia, was that family tradition?" Elizabeth broke down crying, the first Morrison, to show genuine emotion during trial. "I became a monster," she sobbed. "We all did. It happened so gradually we didn't notice." Each compromise led to another until atrocity became routine. Her confession opened floodgates. Other order members began acknowledging their transformation from idealistic public servants to criminal conspirators. The banality of evil laid bare ordinary people committing extraordinary horrors through incremental moral surrender. "This is the real lesson," I told Amanda Chen during an exclusive interview. "The order weren't born monsters. They became monsters by choosing power over principle, expedience over ethics. Any of us could follow that path if we're not vigilant." "Do you forgive them?" Amanda asked. "Forgiveness isn't mine to give. Ask their victims." "Oh, wait, you can't. They're dead." The trials continued for 2 years. Convictions mounted life sentences handed down like party favors. The order's leadership found themselves caged in the same prisons where they'd sent innocent people. Poetic justice, though poetry couldn't resurrect the dead. But something unexpected happened as trials progressed. Americans began engaging with democracy differently. Town halls overflowed. Voting rates skyrocketed. Citizens demanded transparency from officials who'd previously operated without scrutiny. The order's exposure had awakened a sleeping giant of civic participation. "You didn't just destroy the order," Judge Nakamura told me after the last major conviction. "You reminded Americans that democracy requires active involvement. That's the order's true defeat. They'll never again find passive citizens willing to let others make decisions for them." Still, victory felt hollow. I'd gained justice, but lost family. Exposed truth, but lived in hiding. Saved democracy, but couldn't safely walk American streets. The bounties on our heads remained active, order remnants, plotting revenge from prison cells and foreign exile. "Was it worth it?" Marcus asked one night as we watched coverage of the final trials. We were in yet another safe house, our fifth, in 2 years, anonymous and isolated. I thought about Rosa's courage in collecting evidence for 20 years, Sarah's strength surviving 5 years of chemical torture, my grandmother's sacrifice trying to expose the order decades ago, all the unnamed victims who died for opposing corruption. It wasn't about worth, I finally answered. It was about necessity. The order gave us no choice. Submit or fight. We fought. And won. Did we look at us, hiding, hunted, while they served sentences in minimum security facilities with possibility of parole? Their empire is destroyed, their power broken, their secrets exposed. Their legacy lives on in every institution they corrupted, every life they destroyed, every family they shattered. I touched the window, looking at a world I could no longer safely enter. We won the war but lost our lives in the process. Marcus held me as I cried, not for the order's victims, but for ourselves. The forgotten casualties of necessary battles, heroes in headlines but ghosts in reality. The next morning brought news that several order members had been murdered in prison. Not random violence, but coordinated hits. Someone was cleaning house, ensuring silence from beyond institutional walls. The war continued even after surrender. "Who's doing this?" Sarah asked during our weekly video call. Does it matter? The order created so many enemies. Foreign governments they'd manipulated, criminal organizations they'd controlled, victims' families seeking revenge, take your pick. Or order leadership eliminating loose ends, Emma suggested from her undisclosed location. Dead members can't reveal additional secrets. We'd never know. The investigations found no evidence, no witnesses, no trail leading to those ordering executions. The order's final mystery, were they being eliminated by enemies or eating their own to protect remaining secrets? "Let them all rot," Sarah said fiercely. "Prison or grave, I don't care as long as they can't hurt anyone else." But they were still hurting people. Every family member living in hiding, every witness checking over shoulders, every survivor jumping at unexpected sounds. The order's physical structure was destroyed, but their psychological damage remained. "We need to disappear," Marcus finally said. "Really disappear. New identities, new country, new lives. Leave all this behind. And let them win. Let ourselves live." There's a difference between victory and survival. We achieved victory. Now we need to focus on survival. He was right. The trials were ending, justice largely served. Our part in history was written. Time to close the book and start a new chapter somewhere. The order's reach couldn't extend. But first, one final task. The WikiLeaks files still weighted my insurance policy against order resurgence. Time to decide their fate. "Release them," Sarah voted. "Complete transparency. Let historians judge." "Destroy them," Emma countered. "They've served their purpose. No need to risk innocent lives." "Partial release," Marcus suggested. "Order crimes, but nothing endangering ongoing operations." I held the phone containing global secrets, feeling its weight. The power to reshape narratives, destroy reputations, expose decades of hidden history. The order had been right about one thing: information was power. The question was how to wield it responsibly. None of the above, I decided. I'm giving them to Judge Nakamura. Let legitimate authority decide what serves justice versus vengeance. It felt appropriate. I'd stolen power from the order, but refused to keep it myself. Let others judge what truth served public good versus public harm. The transfer happened at midnight in a parking garage, like something from spy movies we'd lived. Judge Nakamura took the files with solemn understanding of their magnitude. "Any regrets?" she asked. "Thousands, but not about exposing them, only about the cost. Freedom is never free. You paid in full. Others paid more. Rosa, my grandmother, all the order's victims. But their payment bought something. Justice, truth, reform. That's more than most sacrifices achieve." As she drove away with humanity's secrets, I felt a weight lift. My part was done. The order lay in ruins. Democracy breathed free. Time to vanish like morning mist, and find whatever peace remained possible. Ready? Marcus asked, holding tickets to anywhere but here. I looked back one last time at the country I'd saved and could no longer safely inhabit, at the life destroyed to preserve others' lives, at the family lost to protect strangers. Ready? We disappeared into the night, leaving only truth behind. The order's unraveling was complete. What rose from their ashes would be others' responsibility. Our war was over. Time to find peace in exile, love in hiding, life in shadows. The order once owned but no longer controlled. It wasn't a happy ending. Those only existed in fiction, but it was an ending, and after everything, that was enough. 5 years later, I watched my mother's funeral through a drone feed from 2,000 miles away. Charlotte Morrison had died in federal prison, brain aneurysm during morning count. Quick, painless, more mercy than she'd shown her victims. The news barely made headlines anymore. The order trials were history replaced by fresher scandals and newer corruptions. Small turnout, Marcus observed, studying the screen beside me. 3 people attended, a court-appointed chaplain, a cemetery worker, and surprisingly, Emma. She'd emerged from hiding for this moment, standing alone at the grave of her friend's mother and her tormentor's architect. "Why did you go?" I asked Emma later during our encrypted call. "Closure," she said simply. "Needed to see proof that evil dies too, that they don't get to haunt us forever." But they did haunt us. In dreams where Tyler's gun found its mark, in flinches when strangers looked too long, in the careful way we checked locks, varied routes, maintained vigilance years after active threats ended. My father had preceded Charlotte by 2 years, shanked in the prison yard by someone settling unknown scores. Harold died of supposedly natural causes that forensics couldn't quite verify. One by one, the order's leadership found justice or death, often indistinguishable in their circumstances. From our cottage in rural Norway, I'd built a quiet life, teaching English to local children who didn't know my real name, tending gardens that bloomed without blood in their soil, loving Marcos through nightmares and normal days alike. Sarah had taken a different path, becoming a crusading journalist under an assumed name. Her exposés on corruption earned awards from peers who didn't know she'd survived the order's worst. Sarah had transformed trauma into purpose ghostwriting stories that saved others from similar fates. "I'm getting married," she announced during our quarterly video call, "to someone who knows everything and loves me anyway." "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it despite the ache. I'd never attend her wedding, never meet her children, never share normal moments that friendship deserved. The order had stolen those possibilities along with everything else. But we'd stolen something from them too, their future. 5 years after exposure, no shadow organization had risen to replace them. The reforms held, strengthened by citizens who'd learned vigilance's price. Democracy functioned messily but genuinely without puppet masters managing outcomes. "The anniversary is coming up," Marcus mentioned one evening, referring to the date that started everything my mother's slap heard around the world. 5 years since the party, feels like a lifetime. In a way it was. That Brianne died that night. He was right. The privileged girl who'd stood in that ballroom, worried about family approval and social standing, no longer existed. In her place stood someone harder, but hopefully wiser, shaped by truth's terrible cost. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked, echoing Judge Nakamura's old question. "About exposing them, never. About how I did it daily. If I'd been smarter, maybe Rosa would have lived. If I'd been faster, Sarah might have been spared years of torture. If I'd been better, the body count might have been lower. But perfect was paralysis's enemy, and waiting for ideal circumstances would have meant never acting at all." My phone, one of many burners, buzzed with a message from Juan. He'd built a new life in Costa Rica, running a restaurant named Rosa's that served her recipes to tourists who'd never know the significance. "Watching the American news," he wrote. "They're making a movie about the order. Hollywood wants to turn you into an action hero." I laughed bitterly. Hollywood preferred simple narratives. Clear heroes defeated villains, triumphant endings. They'd sanitize the messiness, glorify the violence, romanticize trauma into entertainment. The real story of ordinary people making impossible choices with imperfect information wouldn't sell tickets. Let them, I replied. Fiction can't be worse than reality. But sometimes reality surprised us with grace. A package arrived the next week, no return address, but postmarked from Connecticut. Inside was my grandmother's journal discovered during estate liquidation and forwarded by lawyers who'd tracked me through careful intermediaries. Her handwriting filled pages with observations about the order's early corruption, her growing horror at her daughter's transformation, her plans to expose them. The final entry, dated the night before her death, destroyed me. Tomorrow I confront Charlotte with evidence. She's still my daughter despite everything. Perhaps motherhood will overcome ambition. If you're reading this, Brianne, it didn't. Know that I love you more than justice, but justice must prevail. Be stronger than I was. Be better than they are. Truth is your inheritance, not their lies. I sobbed for hours, Marcus holding me through a grief that time hadn't dimmed. My grandmother had known she might die but acted anyway. Courage was apparently genetic skipping a generation to manifest in her granddaughter. She'd be proud, Marcus whispered. You finished what she started. At such a cost. Freedom's price is always high, but the bill comes due whether you pay it or not. At least you chose to pay rather than passing debt to others. That night, I dreamed of Rosa and my grandmother having tea discussing my choices with the wisdom of martyrs. They didn't offer forgiveness that wasn't theirs to give, but they offered understanding which mattered more. The 5th anniversary arrived with unexpected news. Congress was considering a pardon for all order whistleblowers, allowing us to return home without fear of prosecution for crimes committed exposing larger crimes. It's a trap, Emma warned. Order remnants still have bounties active. Official pardon won't stop unofficial revenge. Maybe, Sarah countered, but hiding forever isn't living. At some point, we have to choose between safety and freedom. The debate raged across our scattered network. Some wanted to return reclaimed lives stolen by necessary actions. Others preferred exile safety to homeland's risks. I understood both positions torn between them. What do you want? Marcus asked, ever supportive of choices I hadn't made yet. I want to visit their graves, I admitted. Rosa, my grandmother. Pay respects without hiding. Say goodbye properly. Then we go. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous, but some things are worth risk. So we planned carefully. False identities for travel security arrangements, limited exposure, a surgical strike of closure rather than permanent return. Judge Nakamura arranged protection, understanding the human need for ritual grief. Standing at Rose's grave, I finally said words trapped for years. Thank you for loving me when my family couldn't, for choosing truth when silence was safer, for being the mother I needed instead of the one I had. At my grandmother's headstone, I left her journal and a promise. It's finished. They're gone. You can rest now. The cemetery was quiet, autumn leaves falling like memories. Somewhere in federal prison, order members served life sentences. Somewhere in hiding, their victims rebuilt lives. Somewhere in committee rooms, reforms continued strengthening democracy's foundations. But there in that moment, there was only grief and gratitude, mixed like soil and rain. The order had taken so much, but they had also revealed who truly mattered. Blood might be thicker than water, but chosen family ran deeper than both. Ready, Marcus asked as we prepared to leave, knowing we might never safely return. I touched both headstones once more, carrying their courage forward. Ready. We vanished again into lives built on truth's foundation rather than lies' comfort. The order was gone, but vigilance remained. Other corruptions would rise, requiring other heroes to expose them. The cycle continued, but perhaps with citizens more aware of costs and responsibilities. My phone buzzed with a final message from Judge Nakamura. Pardons approved. You're free to come home whenever you choose. America owes you a debt it can never repay. I deleted the message without responding. Some debts weren't meant for repayment, some sacrifices were their own reward. Some stories ended not with homecoming, but with acceptance of permanent exile as freedom's final price. Where to now? Marcus asked as we boarded a plane to anywhere but there. Forward, I said, taking his hand. Always forward. Behind us, the order's ashes scattered in history's wind. Ahead, life waited scarred, but possible, limited, but genuine, shadowed, but ours. It was enough. After everything, it was more than enough. It was freedom. 10 years had passed since my mother's slap echoed through that Connecticut ballroom. 10 years since I chose truth over blood, justice over family exile, over complicity. Today, I stood in a different ballroom in a different country, watching my daughter take her first steps. She's got your determination, Marcus said, catching little Sarah before she could topple into the coffee table. We'd named her after my friend who survived the order's worst gotten permission through encrypted channels that brought tears to her namesake's eyes. Sarah Chen. Now, Sarah Williams, in her new life, had 3 children of her own. We'd never meet them, but we knew their names, their birthdays, their first words shared across secure connections. Any regrets naming her Sarah? Marcus asked. It's a heavy legacy. It's a strong legacy. She'll know her namesake chose truth over comfort, survived when they tried to silence her. There are worse inheritances. Our cottage in New Zealand had become home in ways Connecticut never was. Here, neighbors knew us as Emma and David Foster, a writer and financial consultant who'd moved for the climate. They didn't know Emma Foster had once been Brianne Morrison, or that her writing consisted of anonymous blogs helping order survivors rebuild their lives. The pardon had been official for 5 years, but we'd never returned to America. Some exiles were chosen. Others became identity. We'd built too much here to risk it on homeland soil that might still hide vengeance. Package from Juan, Marcus announced, bringing in a box that had passed through 3 countries and countless security checks. Inside were photos from Rosa's restaurant, now a small chain across Central America. Her recipes fed thousands who'd never know they were tasting love perfected during 20 years of domestic servitude to monsters. Juan had married, had twins, found peace in feeding others. His notes were always brief, but warm. She would be proud, we remember. Emma, the original Emma, my childhood friend, visited once a year under assumed names. She'd become a professor of ethics at Oxford, teaching students about institutional corruption through carefully anonymized case studies. The order's story, sanitized of identifying details, had become curriculum for those who'd shape tomorrow's institutions. My students always ask, she said during her last visit, how ordinary people become monsters. I tell them it happens one compromise at a time until compromise becomes character. Do they believe you? The smart ones do. The others learn eventually, usually too late. The 10th anniversary brought unexpected media attention. Documentaries, think pieces, academic conferences examining the order's rise and fall. Most got details wrong, simplified complex truths into digestible narratives. But accuracy mattered less than impact. A new generation learned vigilance through our history. They're making another movie, Marcus informed me, scrolling through entertainment news. This time with a bigger budget. A-list actors, they want to show your mother as a complex anti-villain with sympathetic motivations. Let them. Fiction can't hurt us anymore. But truth could still surprise. A message arrived through chains of encryption from someone I'd never expected, Tyler's daughter. My niece, born while he was in custody, raised by her mother, who'd fled the order's influence. Aunt Brianne, she wrote, I'm 18 now, old enough to understand what my father did, what our family was. I'm starting college next year, studying journalism. I want to be like you, someone who chooses truth over easy lies. Would you be willing to correspond, to help me understand? I stared at the message for hours, Marcus reading the weight of it in my silence. It could be a trap, he said gently. Order remnants using family to lure you out. Or it could be a girl trying to break cycles, build something better from poisoned ground. What does your gut say? My gut remembered Tyler's gun, his twisted pride in family crimes, his death claiming I was just like them. But it also remembered the boy who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd stayed up helping with homework, who'd been corrupted rather than born evil. I'll write back, I decided, carefully, through intermediaries, but she deserves a chance we never got to choose her path with full knowledge of where others lead. The correspondence began slowly, authentication protocols confirming her identity. Melissa Morrison, studying at Berkeley, had grown up knowing her father was a monster, but not understanding why. Her letters revealed intelligence, integrity, and iron determination to be different. I've read everything she wrote, the trial transcripts, the recordings, the testimonies. I understand why you exposed them. I'm grateful you did, but I also mourn the family we might have been if they'd chosen differently. We all mourn that, I replied. But mourning what never was can't overshadow building what could be. You have Morrison intelligence without Morrison corruption. Use it wisely. Through her, I learned of other order children choosing different paths. Cousins I'd never known rejecting inherited corruption. A generation determining that sins of fathers needn't become destinies of children. The cycle slowly breaking. Sarah, my daughter, not my friend, grew surrounded by love, untainted by ambition. She knew her name's significance, understood our exile's necessity, but also experienced joy without shadows. Her laughter filled rooms that had never heard schemes or plots or murders planned over dinner. Will you tell her everything? Marcus asked one evening as we watched her play. When she's older, everything age-appropriate as she grows. She deserves truth, even difficult truth, especially difficult truth. It's a heavy burden for a child, lighter than ignorance. The order thrived on people not knowing, not asking, not looking too closely. Our daughter will know how to see. The real Sarah called that night as she did every month. She'd won another journalism award, exposed another corruption, saved another victim from institutional imprisonment. Her voice carried scars, but also strength. 10 years, she marveled. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, sometimes like another lifetime. Both, I agreed. We died and were reborn that night, different people wearing familiar faces. Do you think we really won? I considered the question that haunted all of us. The order was gone, its members dead or imprisoned, its structure dismantled. But corruption found new forms, power attracted new monsters, institutions bred new shadows. We'd won a battle in an eternal war. We won what we could, I said finally. Perfect victory was never possible, but we proved it could be done, showed others how to fight. That matters. Is it enough? It has to be. Emma joined the call from England, then Juan from Guatemala, our scattered family of survivors connected by shared trauma and chosen love. We'd paid prices none would have voluntarily chosen, but we'd purchased something precious, the knowledge that ordinary people could destroy extraordinary evil. To Rosa, Juan said, raising a glass wherever he was. To your grandmother, Emma added. To all of them, Sarah finished. The known and unknown who died for truth. To us, I said quietly, for surviving to remember them. We drank across continents, honoring ghosts who'd be proud of what we'd built from their sacrifices. The order had taken our homes, but we'd made new ones. Stolen our names, but we'd chosen better ones. Destroyed our families, but we'd created stronger ones. My daughter tugged at my leg, wanting attention. I scooped her up, this child who'd never know grandparents because they'd chosen monstrosity. But she'd know Sarah's strength. Emma's wisdom, Juan's kindness, Marcus's steadfastness. She'd know love earned rather than blood assumed. Story, she asked in her piping voice. What kind of story? Hero story. I settled her on my lap, Marcus joining us. How to tell hero stories when you'd learned heroes were just humans who chose slightly better than villains, when victory looked like exile and justice felt like loss. Once upon a time, I began, there was a girl who discovered her family kept bad secrets. She had to choose between easy lies and difficult truths. I told her the story in terms she could understand. Good and bad, right and wrong, simplified but not falsified. Someday she'd learn the complex details, the gray areas, the impossible choices. But first, she needed to know that choosing truth was both possible and necessary, whatever the cost. Did the girl win? She asked when I finished. She stopped the bad people, but she had to go far away to be safe. Was she sad? Sometimes, but she was also happy because she found new people to love. And she had a little girl who made everything worthwhile. Like me, exactly like you. She smiled satisfied with simple answers to complex questions, time enough for nuance when she was older. For now, she knew heroes existed, even flawed ones, especially flawed ones. That night, after she slept, Marcus and I stood on our deck watching stars invisible in Connecticut's light pollution. 10 years ago, we'd been different people with different dreams. The order had shattered those dreams, but we'd built new ones from fragments. Any regrets? He asked our ritual question. Thousands. I admitted our ritual answer, but not about choosing truth, even knowing the cost. Especially knowing the cost. Someone had to pay it. At least we got to choose our currency. A message arrived from Judge Nakamura, now retired, but still protective of her witnesses. Congress is considering a memorial, she wrote. For order victims, they want to include you among the honored. Thoughts. I almost laughed. Memorialized while living, honored while hiding. The irony was perfectly American. Celebrate heroes at safe distances while they lived in exile. Tell them no, I replied. Memorials are for the dead. Rosa, my grandmother, all of them. We're still alive, still fighting in our own ways. Honor us by maintaining vigilance, not marble monuments. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to human struggles. Somewhere beneath them, order members rotted in cells. Somewhere else, their children chose better paths. Somewhere, always new corruptions grew, requiring new heroes to expose them. But here now in this moment, a family born of truth, rather than blood, lived quietly. We'd torn down an empire and built a cottage, destroyed a legacy and created a future, lost ourselves and found each other. Come to bed, Marcus said. Tomorrow's another day of beautiful exile. I followed him inside, checking locks from habit, varying patterns from practice. The order was gone, but caution remained. Some prices once paid generated perpetual interest. But in our daughter's room, watching her sleep without fear, I knew the transaction's worth. She'd grow up free because we'd chosen chains. She'd know truth because we'd rejected lies. She'd have choices because we'd made ours. The order had thought they were eternal, necessary, irreplaceable. They'd been wrong on all counts. Evil was persistent but not permanent. Corruption was common but not inevitable. Power was seductive but not supreme. Truth, love, and courage. These were the real eternals. These were what we'd chosen, what we'd kept, what we'd passed on. These were our weapons against shadows, our inheritance for tomorrow. 10 years after that slap, I was no longer Brianne Morrison. That girl had died in a Connecticut ballroom, murdered by truth's weight. But from her ashes rose someone harder and softer, broken, and reforged, exiled, and home. I was a mother now, a partner, a writer, a keeper of memories, a guardian of stories, a witness to the possible. I was everyone, and no one, everywhere and nowhere, somebody and nobody. I was free, and in the end, after everything, freedom was the only victory that mattered. The order had lost more than they'd known existed, and we'd won more than we dared dream possible. It was finally enough. Thank you for joining me on this journey of truth, courage, and sacrifice. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought within families, and the greatest victories require the highest prices. But as Brianne learned, truth is stronger than blood, chosen family, deeper than inherited bonds, and freedom, more valuable than comfort. If this story touched you, please consider sharing your own thoughts about standing up for what's right, even when it costs everything. Like, subscribe, and share this story with others who need to know that ordinary people can defeat extraordinary evil. Remember, the order thrived on silence and shadows. We defeat such corruption through voices and light. Keep speaking, keep shining, keep fighting. The story ends, but the vigil continues. Thank you for watching, and may you always choose truth over a comfortable lies.